Welcome to an exploration of the wishes fulfilled philosophy, where Dr. Wayne Dyer teaches you how to master the art of manifestation. This video focuses on the importance of assuming the feeling of your wish already being fulfilled and living from that state of completion. Dr. Dyer explains that the universe is a vibrational match to your thoughts, so learning to focus on what you want rather than what is missing is the key to a blessed life. You will discover how to move beyond the limitations of the ego and tap into the infinite power of the I Am presence within you. This video provides the tools you need to stop living a half-lived life and start creating the reality you've always dreamed of. A special thanks to Hay House for partnering with us to release this video exclusively here on my YouTube channel. If you've been here before, drop a hashtag Believe in the comments below so I can feature you here in a future video. And if you're new, welcome to Believe Nation, the only channel that helps you believe in yourself daily, one video at a time. Believe.
Dr. Wayne Dyer joins us in beautiful Maui. And how are you doing, Dr. Dyer?
I'm doing great, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's good to talk to you. So we have some people that we could still talk to in this, segment. So let's do that. We've got some good questions up here. So let's start in New Hampshire and go to Celeste on line 1. And Celeste, thanks for holding on. You're on with Dr. Dyer.
Hello.
Hi, Celeste. How are you, my dear?
I'm fine, thanks. I have talked to you before. I have called a couple of times telling you stories about my grandson, Miles, who says lots of interesting, wise things.
Yes. I remember.
Great. Well,
he's how old is he now? He's what, like 4?
He's 7. He's 7.
Mm.
Yes, and still wise and wonderful. And
yeah, I think he was about 4 though when you called one of the first several years ago.
Yes,
yeah.
When I started calling you and telling you about things that he said, and he's still amazing, absolutely amazing. Sometimes he'll say something, and I'll turn around and go, "Who are you? And why are you in that little tiny body?" But I wanted to talk to you today about myself, and I really am very grateful for the impact that you have on my life in a lot of ways. And one of the things that I'm doing right now, I started a little class. I've done it in people's living rooms. I call it Abundance. And it's basically just a little 6-week session that teaches people to lighten up their vibration and have wonderful things start to come into their lives in just really fun ways, but that have spiritual basis to it that I kind of sneak in there when they're not looking. And in order to become a stronger facilitator, I became a life coach. Well, I'm still working full-time, so I'm just basically coaching for friends and acquaintances, people that are interested. And I was coaching someone that I didn't know very well who is a musician. And as he started telling me about his music, his vibration just went way up. And I didn't even know him as a musician, but he was just like floating.
How did you know his vibration was going up? What happened?
You can just feel it, the tone of their voice and the way that their face lights up. And that's basically what I'm doing in my coaching, is teaching people how to feel that vibration within themselves and then hold that vibration, and then more good things can come into their life, which I do and works great for me, and it's wonderful. So while we were talking, he kind of turned the tables on me and he said, "Well, let me ask you, what is it that led you to do this, to want to help people in this way?" And without hesitation, I said, "It's my music." And it just reminded me so much of how you say, and I hear it over and over on Hay House, how you say, "Don't die with your music inside you." And and I love it. I absolutely, totally love doing this. But right now, I'm just doing it as a side thing. And every time that I get to where it would get big, I stop myself. And even though I can read other people's vibrations, I can't figure this piece out, why I'm doing that.
It's, I'm just giving my gut reaction, okay? Because, and it always feels like when I hear this kind of a story, that the little child inside of you that learned something when she was very little and lived in a culture where a lot of the things that we take into our consciousness and become part of our subconscious mind, our subatomic mind, is, am I really worthy of this? It's that question of worthiness, It's like, Everything that you're describing, Celeste, it's what I call, I learned it from this guy named Bashar, it's called your excitement. And your excitement is the thing that when you feel your excitement, when you feel something that just excites you, what inside, I'm not talking about a pleasurable excitement. I'm just talking about an awareness that I am aligned with what I'm here for. Your excitement, when you're aligned with your excitement, the reason that it feels good is because feeling good is the same thing as feeling God. That's what Muktananda would always say to the people who would enter his ashram. Do you know the difference between feeling good and feeling God? And if they said no, he would just make a little circle with his thumb and his finger, like a zero, like there's no difference. There's a zero difference between good and God. There's just one O difference. And whenever you feel that internal, and we're talking now about a feeling state, which comes from the way that you are processing something. So inside of you, a feeling state, a physical feeling of it feels good, this feels aligned, this feels right, this is what I'm here for. And what Bashar said in this is that that two things happen. One is that you will be completely supported if you stay on that path. If you stay in that feeling of whatever it is that excites you, you will be supported because you're now aligned with who you are, which means you're aligned with your highest self, which means you're aligned with the divine highest self, which is God. So you're aligned with God when something that you're doing feels good. So you'll be supported. And number two is that it will become effortless. And that's a hard concept for us to get at, living in the Western world that we live in. If there's no effort, then it's not right. You have to work hard, right? I mean, this is the stuff that we grew up with, and you have to set goals, and you have to struggle for it, and in order to win something, and if there's no pain, there's no gain unless you have the pain. All of that kind of stuff. And so effortless in the Tao, the Tao speaks about do nothing and leave nothing undone, that everything just allow it to be. And what you do is you get into an allowing state. You get into that place where it feels like you're going to be supported. It feels like you're effortless. But then that subconscious mind training of yours that says, who are you to be expecting to this? And you can't make a living doing this. And you're not qualified enough to do that. And what about all of the things that are going to happen that aren't going to work out for you? And we go through this endless, long rationale list of explanations for why I can't live the life that I came here to live in the first place and to do what it is that I'm intending to do. So you've got to let go of that. You've got to let go of that subconscious mind training of yours, and all of us have, which says, I'm not really worthy of this. I'm not that smart. I'm not, who am I? I'm not God. I'm not a spiritual teacher. I'm not a higher level being. I'm not really worthy of that, and I'm no better than anybody else. And then all of a sudden, you're stopped again. There's a stopper put in front of you, and you can't proceed.
You said something earlier in the show about replacing the fear with love, and that kind of was like, okay, that's what I need to do. I need to keep pushing past that little fear voice that keeps coming in, and just keep going. I mean, I am still doing it. I definitely am still doing it, because when I do a session, I feel wonderful.
I know, and I know that you're still doing it, but the question becomes, are you doing it with the same level of excitement, of joy? Like, I trust in this, I trust in the universe, I trust that this feels so good because I'm aligned with God, and I'm doing what I'm here to do. And you're right, absolutely right, though. Tying that in with love is the answer to it. The minute that you start, in the Course in Miracles, it says there's only fear and love. And everything that is fear can't be love, and everything that is love can't be fear. And when those entities entered my body and just came with this divine love, there was no room for fear. It's that old saying, fear knocked at the door, love answered, and no one was there.
Yeah.
You send that away. I just got to notice we have to pull away for the break. So anyways, great talking to you, my love.
Thank you.
God bless you, Celeste. Nice to hear from you in New Hampshire.
Well, we've got amazing people here waiting to talk to you. Some great questions, too. I'm not even sure who to go to first. But let's go to Baltimore, Maryland, and talk to Lois on line 5. And Lois, thanks for holding. You're on with Dr. Dyer.
Oh, hi, Dr. Dyer. It's so nice to talk to you.
Thank you, Lois. Same here.
I'm calling. I've been in a bit of a drama lately, and I feel like I need some kind of a psychic therapist. My sister's been an alcoholic and on pills for years and years and years. And this past month, she finally collapsed and she got put in the hospital. And they really did not think she would live. But I just kept thinking she's going to live, she's going to live. And my mother and I flew out. We're in Baltimore. She's in Illinois. And my mother thought we were going to bury her. And I just kept thinking no. And she did live, and it was like a miracle. So then I offered to pay for her to go to a rehab, and people kept telling me, this has been going on for years. Why are you doing this? Why are you putting this money out? And I just felt compelled to do it. Then in the rehab, they withdrew her from her pills too quickly, and she had some kind of brain malfunction.
Right. What was she taking? Was she taking like Xanax and Klonopin? Yeah, that's the same thing. Yeah, you can't. You have to be very careful with that and Xanax and
right
drugs like that, because they're not water soluble. They're fat soluble, so they store in the body. You don't get to just.
They took her off too fast, and then and they were telling me she was going to have brain damage, and my sister's back, and she's back again, and I kept saying no. I know her. She's my sister. Okay. And right now she's okay. And she is going to meetings every day. And she actually went to church. Now, we aren't religious people, but I truly believe in the connection. And I've had everybody fight me on this. And I just feel like I need some kind of a therapist, but I need spirituality.
Well, let me see if I can, in a few minutes, see if I can be of help to you. Many of you who know me and have listened to my show over the years and read my books and heard my lectures and so on know that I have a daughter who is one of my daughters has struggled with the same thing, with prescription drugs and alcohol and so on. But mostly it's just prescription drug kinds of things that. Which it's Adderall and it's Klonopin or Xanax. It's these kind of drugs, and she's had the seizure. So I'm sitting here listening to you, and just picturing my daughter, who's 29 years old. And the only thing I can say to you, my dear, is and I learned it from Abraham, from Esther Hicks. I mean, we talked about this one time, and she just said that the answer to this is to love people through it. Love is the answer to this. All of these pills that are being taken, all of these drugs that are being consumed, whether they're being, in pill form or whether they're being snorted or whether they're being drank or however they are, they're basically, they're little pieces of fear that we put into our body. I'm afraid that I can't do this. I'm afraid I can't do that. So this is the thing that's going to do it for me. And the only antidote to anything that is fear-based is love. Well, and so what you are doing is precisely the right thing. Not only are you doing the right thing, Lois, but you are probably saving her life. You're probably the reason why that she has not left. How old is your sister?
She's 56 and I'm 52. Mm-hmm.
So she's your older sister?
Yes.
And is she married? Does she have children?
She's been with her partner, so he's like a husband, for 27 years. Mm-hmm. And when we were flying out, I said, tell her I'm on my way. He said, Lois, she's not there. I said, you get in that room and you tell her I'm on my way. And I don't care if she can hear you or not. Mm-hmm. So I just, and the day it happened, and I wasn't aware of this, I felt really weird and called an energy person, like to give me a well-being thing. I just felt really weird the day it happened. Mm-hmm. So I just...
These
I don't
feelings
know where
that
to turn, but I do feel like we're connected.
You've done the right thing here just by making this phone call, and then even Diane picking up, saying, I don't know which call to go to first, and so on. And she's debating back and forth, but then she picks it. It's all being handled. All of this is being handled by a divine source. And so, and even you're deciding to pick up the phone and call today.
Right.
But more than that, Lois, is these feelings that you are having within you that come from the way that you are processing this entire event. Yes. This is your sister. This is someone that you love. This is someone who probably took care of you when you were a little girl and when you were young. And you feel a very, very strong sense of kinship and identification with and love towards this human being. You stay with that. Okay. You just stay with that. Love will, whatever the problem, whatever the issue, love will resolve it. Because you don't really have any problems. You only think that you do. If you change the way you look at this circumstance, the circumstance that you are looking will change. And your sister's coming out of it. And the fact that she's going to meetings and the fact that she is willing to give this a try, it's probably because of, this little bit of encouragement that she has. And I know because I've worked with this with my daughter on and off. She's been on it and then she's been off of it and she goes off for a year and then she goes back on. And currently she just got married, but she's still got this, this addiction thing that I struggle with it. I struggle with it the same way you're struggling with it every day. But the feeling that I have in here, and everybody else in my family, not everybody else, but many other people in my family, all tell me you're wasting your money. You shouldn't be doing this. She's just going to go do more of that. And I said, but I'm just about love. That's what I'm about. I want to live from a place of love, and this is the only way I know how to. And if she's only going to live one more day, then she's going to live that day knowing that she was loved. And
I have said that to my husband. Even if she has one day of peace, it's worth it to me.
Right. Even 1 hour of, and even if the money that you give her, she uses it to go out and if it makes her feel loved and makes her feel good, then you are fulfilling your dharma and you're helping her as well. And love will heal this. Love is the answer to these addictions. Addiction is a fear-based thing. It is, I'm afraid that I can't be happy unless I have, I look at the world the way I want it to be, and it's not the way I want it to be. And because it's not the way I want it to be, then I'm going to take this drug to make it look like the world I want it to be. And then I can just, go off into this sort of cloud that I go off in. And,
right.
And once she gets and realizes that love doesn't have to be, you don't have to be living in this constant state of fear, it's going to change for her. It's going to change. And I suspect very strongly that I would be there with her right now if I were you.
Well, I'm going out the end of the month, and we're going to go to a cabin on a lake with her kids. So I booked.
She has kids as well?
Yes. 3.
How many? 3 kids? Yeah.
So I booked a little vacation for us, and
years and years ago, my daughter, she was about, 17 or so, and she came home, and she had been gone for the entire weekend, and I was just so upset, and her mother was upset, and all of her brothers and sisters, and she wouldn't answer her phone, and we couldn't find her, and I waited up, and it was about 5 o'clock in the morning, and it was Sunday night, and she was supposed to go to school the next day, and she came in, and I was just about to launch into another one of my sort of tirades on, look what you're doing to all of us and look how much pain you're causing, and on and on and on. I was going, getting ready to give the same talk that I had always given that had never worked. It had never worked, but I was just coming from that place of frustration and anger, and look how much it's costing, and we're doing everything for you, and you don't. And
there's such similarities in our stories. That's what my mother did. She went on the tirade. And I said, how can you do this? She's in pain.
So what I did is I stopped before I was about to talk, and she looked at me and she put her hand up. She said, Dad, please. She said, could I just have a hug from you? And it was like, she was in a stupor and she wasn't, but all she was saying, that's the only words that could come out. Could I just have a hug from you? In other words, don't berate me again, and don't tell me all the things that I've done wrong, and don't tell, can you just give me a hug? And that, that's what we need to do in this world, just to give more hugs, just to give more love. I used to give a talk about this tribe in Africa that had this policy is that when anybody in the tribe would act up and, do something that was inconsistent with what the entire tribe needed in order to survive, they would take this person and they would put him in a circle, and they would put everybody around the circle, and everyone in the tribe would tell this person all the things about them that they loved, all the things that were wonderful about them, all the wonderful things that they remembered from, that this time that you were 12 years old, and you remember when you did this, and remember when you were and they would just, and everybody would, instead of everybody going around, now I had done the exact opposite. It took me a long time to learn this. I had a family meeting, and I had got everybody get around, and I had everybody talk and tell her all of the things that were causing pain to all of us. And all that did was just intensify the pain.
Right.
But when I had a meeting finally with her, and I finally realized from these tribes people in Africa that the best thing to do is to have everybody get around and tell her how wonderful she is and how much we love her and how appreciative we are of her wonderful sense of humor and her great heart and her beautiful, countenance and so on. Just doing that. And it had an amazing impact on her for a while. So that's what I would recommend to you. She just picture her saying, "Can I have a hug?"
Yeah.
Instead of a judgment, can I just have a hug from you? Can you just really in some way let me know that you love me, even though I've done so many things that you think I shouldn't be doing? Can you just love me anyway?
Well, that's what I did this time, but
you did
I'm not
right,
having
Lois.
a whole lot of backup. So I'm just so happy to talk to you and for you to reinforce.
It's about love. All of it is about love.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. God bless you, my dear.
And let's see, we've got about 8 minutes, so maybe we could squeeze in one or two other callers.
Sure.
So let's go to Toronto. Nahid in Toronto on line 3. Nahid, and thanks for holding.
Thank you. Thanks for taking my call, Dr. Wayne Dyer.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. How are you today? I'm just a little shook up after that call. I just got tears going down my face, but other than that, I'm okay.
Yeah, me too. Me too, the same here. I have a question for you. Recently, I'm reading Rumi and a bit about Hafiz, and because I'm Persian, I can read their books in Farsi as well. And through my readings, through this, Sufism, I've learned that most of them, they say that you can reach and connect with the God only through suffer. And new learnings that I'm learning from you and other teachers and authors from Hay House, that you can reach God and connect with God through yourself with the joy and, happiness. And I want to see, how do you interpret the suffer that these books are telling us?
Yeah.
Because it's confusing me.
I know. It's a lot of people interpret their poetry that way. I don't, especially Rumi, because Rumi just talks about Rumi just talked about ecstasy, and the whirling dervishes, and and seeing the love, in everything, in every tree, and in a blade of grass, and in a chickpea on in a bowl of soup. I mean, to find love in everything, everywhere. I just don't believe that suffering is the way that we have to go. I think it's way overplayed. There's a lot of people who believe that it's only through austerities and through giving up of everything that we will find and reach God. I just think God is pure bliss and pure joy and pure love. And when you come to know God, and all of my reading and all of my writing and all of the work that I've done in my entire life, to me, it's really about overcoming suffering, and the answer to overcoming suffering is to find it in love. Now, one of the great teachers in my life was St. Francis of Assisi, who I've just read reading another book about him, and but see, a lot of people interpret his austerities and his not eating and fasting and the stigmata as a form of suffering, just giving up and a vow of poverty and so on. But it wasn't his suffering. What other people called suffering, for him was his joy. It was his bliss. He wasn't really suffering at all. He was just in ecstasy at the idea of just no longer identifying himself with this physical world at all. In other words, I'm not my body. I'm not my possessions. I don't need any more possessions. I don't need to have anything. I am just purely in a state of love for God. And you can do that with or without the accoutrements of the ego. You can still be in that blissful state and not have to, so the word suffering is what we have to look at. What does it mean to be suffering? Does suffering mean that I have to be in pain and agony and tortured in order for me to find God? I just don't go there. I think that I do believe, because I'm a Taoist, I've written an entire book on the Tao and lived it and practiced it. I'm not identified with what comes into this physical world, with how much money I'm making, with how many books I'm selling, with whether I get paid or don't get paid a lot, whatever. I don't even hardly keep track of that anymore. And what I do get, I just give it away anyway and take great joy and great pleasure in that. So I guess it just depends on how you come up and use this word suffering It's like when you get into the state of divine love that I speak about and write about now, it's a state in which there is no opposite. You have to try to imagine in your mind now that if I were to say to you, what is the word joy? And if I were to ask you, what is the opposite of joy, what would you say?
I don't know.
It's like sadness, right? Or depression or whatever, joy. Yeah, that would be the opposite. Now what I'd like you to do is just think of the prospect of joy, just the word joy, that has no opposite. In other words, there's no sadness affiliated with it. Because everything in our physical world has a dichotomy to it, and it has to have a reverse thing up. We only know something is up because we have a concept called down. We only know male because we have female. And, it's like, so we have all of these opposites. But in the world of knowing God, try to imagine a word like love that doesn't have an opposite. When we think of love and the opposite of love, we think, oh, that's fear, or it's hate, or it's anger and things like that. But try to imagine a world in which where you live when there is only love and there's no opposite. That's what it means to be. That's what Anita experienced when she went into her near-death experience. When you get to that place where you are living from a place of just pure love, and that's all you can see, that's all you can experience, so then all the rest of the stuff that we call suffering has no meaning to it. It's like whether I eat or whether I don't eat, whether I exercise or I don't, whether I meditate or I don't, whether I'm, all of those things just dissolve. And you're in this exalted state of just pure bliss. And then there's no suffering at all. I just don't think that there's any good case for suffering, emotionally.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
You're so welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll see you then, my love. God bless you.
And a great show today, Dr. Dyer.
Thank you.
Dr. Dyer joins us from Maui on Inauguration Day. Have you been watching any of this, Dr. Dyer?
No, I actually haven't. I have a seminar to do this weekend on divine love for Saturday and Sunday. I've got a lot of people coming from all over the world to Maui for that. And that's sort of everything that I've been thinking about.
Yeah, I would imagine.
I wake up in the morning to love and go to sleep at night to love and just think about it all the time, what I'm going to do. And I've never done one like this before. But I know it's a big day. It's in the Constitution that he was actually sworn in yesterday. I'm sure he gave a great inaugural address. I've got it taped, so I'll listen to it a little bit later. But I'm sure it's a time of hope, a time of perhaps we can finally bring all of this divisiveness that we have in our country to a halt. There seems to be signs of that's dissolving, and I think it's going to be up to him and people to just create more of an atmosphere of love and acceptance and kindness and unity, rather than all of this divisiveness and hate and so on that seems to have been such a big part of our country and our world in the last few years. All this violence and the guns, the issues on guns and killing and so many other things as well. So, yeah, I'm very hopeful, very hopeful.
They should have all the senators and House of Representatives and everybody just come for the weekend workshop for divine love.
Absolutely.
Make them all stay in the same room together.
Bring them all here, exactly. Right.
That would be great. Well, we're getting some great questions up on the board here already. People calling in. So
it's Inauguration Day,
yeah.
So let's inaugurate the next 4 years and bring them in with a sense of peace and kindness towards all of mankind.
We'll feel hopeful. So let's start off in Connecticut. We'll talk with Joe, and he's on line 1 in Norwalk, Connecticut. And Joe, welcome to the show. You're on with Dr. Dyer today.
Hi there. Good to talk with you. Actually, again, I talked with you a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been listening and paying attention an awful lot to your the kinds of things that you've been talking about in terms of your reconciliation with your thoughts about your father being your greatest teacher. And I'm kind of going through the same thing. I have I wish in some days a more estranged relationship for my elderly mother, who's been rather difficult for all of her life, and is now elderly, and I have a lot, I'm the only one to care for her at this point, and having a great deal of difficulty looking at how this can teach me something. I mean, I get the basics around that, but I'm having a hard time sort of getting to the real core of it. And I wondered,
what is the it? What is the it? When you say the core, what is the it?
That's really coming to peace with it, to acceptance, full acceptance, and saying, this is, this was the moment in my life, where of what I had to learn, my life lesson, and accepting.
But I'm still not sure what you're reconciling. What is the? Do you have is this with your mother you're talking about?
Yes. Yes.
You use the word difficult, but I mean everybody is. You should hear what she says about you.
Yeah, this is kind of abusive and always has been. A lot of difficulty in terms of mental illness and things like that.
She had mental illness?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that I can accept. I can accept that certainly.
Right.
But, the wounds are there from when you're a child, of course, and that's the piece that I believe just keeps coming up over and over again, and trying to get beyond that, when dealing with her difficult personality now.
Mm-hmm. What about just? I mean, it sounds so simple to say this, but what about just loving her?
Yeah, that's
if you just feel yourself. I mean, I think about this a lot because I'm going to be doing a seminar on that this next weekend, and been thinking about this whole idea of the only thing that is healing in life is love. It's it's the hate, it's the resentment, it's the anger, the fear. These are the kinds of things that keep us from living a God-realized life. But how old is your mother?
86.
She's 86 years old. And you're helping her out? Is she living with you or?
No, but everything, taking care of all the financial pieces, the medical pieces, all of that is on me.
Are you doing that with resentment, or are you doing that with just love? Is it?
When the crises occur, I'm always really good in a crisis, and I do it, very genuinely and with what I believe is really loving compassion. Really, I come from that model for myself and from that place in myself. But I think that it's sort of the after the crisis is over and we're back to everything is fine, quote, fine again, and the difficulties come again because of her difficult personality. That's the best way I can put it. She can be very, very abusive in the way she speaks to me and her expectations. It's kind of.
But what if when she spoke this way towards you? What is your first name? I didn't
Joe.
Get it. Joe.
Joe. Mm-hmm.
Joe. What if when she spoke to you with her annoying, negative, difficult personality? What if instead of you telling yourself that she shouldn't be this way, and getting angry at her and all that, what if you just said to yourself, this is who she is? It's sort of like if you look at a tree and you look at there are some things on the tree, that are very beautiful, the way the leaves are forming and the branches and all of that. And so you love the tree. And then you look at the tree a little closer and it's got, yucky stuff on the bark and, and it's dried up and it's got, and you don't love the tree any less because of what it is or how it appears. And if you could see your mother like this, you might be able to transform, even at the age of 86, you might be able to transform some of that behavior, because it's very hard to be angry at someone who just sends back love to you.
That's true.
And I'm not saying I'm an expert at this. I've got, I've got 8 kids for one thing.
Yeah.
And I know that they can be pretty nasty sometimes when I'm at my most loving. But go ahead. I've tried going in that direction. I truly have, and I'm in the business too. I'm a psychologist, so I mean, I really get the picture on a number of levels. Right.
It's just that it comes at you with such disdain. There's a great deal of, and I've even.
But what if though? What if, Joe, when she came at you with such disdain and ugliness and nastiness and all of that? What if the only thing that you had to give away was just love? I mean, if you could just imagine, if you could, in Excuses Be Gone, I don't know if you've read Excuses Be Gone. Have you read that book?
I have.
Yeah. Because there's a whole paradigm in there that you begin to look at. And one of the great questions in that paradigm is, what if I couldn't think the thought that I'm thinking right now?
Yeah.
That is, what if I couldn't think about just what a nasty personality this woman has? You know,
that's a really good point. Oh.
Yeah. And
That's
so
a
if
very
you couldn't,
good point.
so let's do it. So if you couldn't think these thoughts that you've repeated 4 or 5 times already in just a few minutes we've been on, about how difficult she is, about nasty and so on, what if you couldn't think that? And then how would you process this woman, this 86-year-old?
I think I would just do what I was doing, and I probably would, as I think about it now, I would let it, all of that sense of my own anger, my own hurt that comes from it would just not be there. I would, it would just be, well, that isn't a thought to even consider.
Right. It would be sort of like the way you would look at the sky. I used to like to use nature, like the sky. You look at the sky and you say, well, you know what? The sky is just the way it is, and if it's just the way it is, it's perfect. Now you look at it an hour later, and the sky looks very different than it did an hour ago, but it's still perfect. And so it's sort of like looking at your mother in that way. It's like if you just, something just came along and just snapped inside of your head and said, I can no longer think a negative thought about this woman. I can only, not I can only think positive thoughts, but I can't think how difficult she is, what a bad person she is, how annoying she is, how much she hurt me when I was a little boy. I can't think about her mental illness. I can't think those thoughts. So all of a sudden, then what comes out of you is your original nature. And your original nature is gentleness and kindness. That's what we all come from. In the Course in Miracles, there's a mind at war with itself, remembers not eternal gentleness.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's really about trying to remember that who you are basically is something that emanated from divine love, and so did she. And she got lost in her mental illness, and she got lost in who knows how she was treated when she was, a little girl. Do you even know?
Well, interestingly enough, I grew up with my grandparents for the first 9 years of my life, and actually my grandmother and I think that my grandmother was really my savior, because she was really the person who raised me. Yeah. And but she used to say to me, I don't know what's wrong with your mother. So I had it kind of reinforced, at least there was a truth there, that there was.
That was her mother?
That was my mother's mother, yes.
Your mother's mother?
Who really just couldn't kind of figure out what was really going on. And of course, back then, not very much was known about, these kinds.
How's your mother's health?
Over the last 2 years, declining. She's pretty stable at this particular moment, but she's been, she's had a number of crises that I've had to take care of.
Yeah, this is you're being tested right now, Joe, in a big way.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like you've taken it on. Do you have siblings?
I do not. No.
So you're an only child?
I am.
So you're being tested now, and the test that you are confronted with right now is: can I love this person? Can I be the instrument of love that I've been trained to be, that I train my patients to be? I'm sure you have people that you work with on this all the time, because it's the absence of love that is the cause of almost all illness.
That's true.
Certainly all wars and conflicts and difficulties and struggles that we have. It all boils down to just a state of being in that place of divine love. And if you can just begin to look at her and just say, this is my test. Am I going to be able to, and extend that love to her no matter what comes back from her? I found it's very interesting, because my mother passed away in July of this year.
Yes, I know.
The 22nd of July. And she was 96, almost 97 years old. And she got nasty in the last year or so of her life, on occasion. And I can remember being there with her. And my mother placed me and my next oldest brother into an orphanage and a series of foster homes, and just, when we were very young, and had all kinds of good reasons, quote, to do that on the physical plane. You could see it. There was a war going on. There was there was a depression. There was no money. My father had left. She had many, many good reasons. But there's a part of me that says, because I have 8 children, that there's no way, it doesn't matter how poor or how terrible things got for me, there's no way that I could have ever put any one of my kids into that kind of a circumstance, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was walking with her, and she was about 95 years old, and I was holding her hand, and she grabbed my hand. She went to grab my arm for something, and I instinctively found myself pulling away, you know, like almost, it was like an automatic response. Now, this is a woman that I've spoken about, written about, I've talked about, that I've loved, I've respected all of the choices that she's had to make, but there was something buried inside of me that is still pissed off, you know, about, like, how do you put a little kid into, how do you just send your little kid away? I've looked at it with much clearer vision now, and I can see why, how important that was for me, and what a great opportunity it was. And it made me a much better teacher of self-reliance, because I had to learn how to rely on myself once I learned that, all of that stuff that I've talked about.
Mm-hmm.
But inside was this little poison dart,
Mm-hmm.
and I recognized it when I pulled my arm away from my mother. And in that moment, I said, I've still got to come from a place of love. And I remember putting my arms around her and holding her a little bit tighter, and practicing something, called forgiveness, which is just like understanding, and I said it to myself. I said, Mother, you did what you knew how to do, given the conditions of your life. And who am I to ask any more of you than that, And if you can see your mother that way, if you can see her, she did what she knew how to do. And you know what, Joe? She's still doing what she knows how to do, but she doesn't like being angry and difficult and mentally ill. She doesn't like that at all. She so desperately wants to be loved. And this may be your chance to give her that one opportunity. She may never have been loved in her life.
That is very helpful. Very helpful, because it really touches on, the very thing that I keep feeling, the story that you have, even about that little thing that's inside of you, and I certainly know all of those other things and what to do. And you're right. I advise my people of the same kinds of things. And yet sometimes you feel like a hypocrite yourself. You come away from it and you say, gee, but I have this that I can't resolve. But that's helpful to really, even if I start just on a small level, with reaching back and being able to say.
What's her favorite thing that she likes? Like a thing? Does she like candy? Does she like flowers? Does she like what?
No. It's really quite unfortunate, because the kinds of things that she likes are really not the kinds of things that can be provided for her very much anymore. And anything
like what?
That you do, well, her favorite thing in the world, and this is what really got her in very deep in her life, was really gambling. I mean, and that was really what her focus was. I mean, it was her own, obviously an addiction that came along with her, and it ruined her life. I mean, she has nothing now. And so even when you reach out, and we reached out even this Christmas to say, come to the movies with us after we have dinner, and she can't even allow herself to kind of do that. I keep reaching out, but it's pretty much rejected all the time, which is pretty much what it was all my life. Nothing was ever good enough or could be good enough, which makes it very difficult. And I think you're right. And she doesn't know how to love, but may want to love very much. But she
does.
Doesn't
I promise you, because she's made out of love, Joe. She's made out of love, and so are you. We all come from love. God is love. We all come from that. We just take on these choices of resentment and hurts and pains and fears and rejections and so on. But basically, at her core, she is love. And I would try to do some things that are love for her. Maybe have a game of blackjack with her. I don't know. Seriously. Say, Mom, I was never good at blackjack. I can't even just like, because she's 86.
Some lotto tickets.
There you go. Absolutely. I'm serious. It's like, just give her an opportunity to feel, oh my God, my only child, the only person in the world that I really had out of love in some moment, in the moment of your conception, there must have been some love there, because that's how it works. That's what the sexual act is about. And so you show up into this world and you're her only child. She just desperately needs to be loved. She needs to feel loved. No matter how crappy her behavior, she needs to feel loved. Yeah. And if you can do it, you'll send it. Because I sent that spark of resentment, and it was more than a spark. It was pretty huge for me, never understanding how do you send your children away? How do you do that? And she obviously did that with you as well.
Yes, in a different way, she abandoned me. Very much so.
Right.
Yeah.
And so now it's full circle time for you. And it's like, if you can really love her, you're going to what? You're going to turn her personality around. You really are. You know, because no matter what it is she says or how unreasonable she is or how difficult she may be, if you're still going to respond from the only thing that you are, because you wouldn't have picked up the phone and called this today, and we wouldn't have had this conversation if there wasn't a part of you that just really feels unloved yourself.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know? And basically, it's all any of us really want, Joe. We just all want to know that we are loved unconditionally by God. And God is there inside your mom, even though it shows up in some crass kinds of ways. Try sending her love. Thank you so much. You've been an inspiration since the beginning of all my training. Oh, thanks. And I would recommend. Is she in a home? No, she's actually living in her home. And how far away is it from you? It's not too far. It's within 30, 40 minutes. But it's okay. Let me give you an assignment, okay, Mr. Psychologist. Today or tomorrow at the latest, just stop by a florist and just take her some, and nothing else. Just say, Mom, I was just thinking about you, and I just want you to have these. Look at these beautiful flowers. I'd just like you to have these. It's funny you should say that. I had the same thought as you were talking to me. Yeah. Can you do it? I can do it. I definitely can do it. Commit to it? I can commit to that. Okay, great. Yeah, send her love. Send her love. Yeah. And then leave. Just say, I just was thinking about you, and I just want you to know I just love you, and you're my mom, and I'm so happy you're still with me, and enjoy these flowers. Gotta go, Mom. Don't have time for you to be nasty. There it is. And if you can be after that, uh-oh. Right. Thanks, Joe. God bless you, my friend. So Namaste.
And going right back to our calls, some great questions up on the board here. And speaking of Vancouver, let's go to Vancouver. Line 2, Safina is joining the show. And Safina, welcome. You're on with Dr. Dyer today.
Hi. Oh, my God. It's so awesome to be talking to you, Wayne. Thank you.
Thank you. Is it Safina?
Safina, yes.
Oh, what is that? Is that Persian?
My father's from Pakistan, and my mother is Welsh, and they merged two names, supposedly.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Thank you very much. Okay, my story and question, I guess. I was watching one of your I Can Do It online, one of your conferences, and you had a choir and Amazing Grace. Actually, it was the one that you had Serena sing.
Sky.
And what was that?
My daughter, Sky?
It wasn't your daughter. No, it was the professional singer, Serena.
Oh, Cecilia.
Cecilia, that's it.
Okay.
And there was something about that moment when I listened to that song, and it leveled me. And I felt almost like the human suffering of the world, and I was practically on my knees, and I couldn't figure out, okay, what is happening? So I thought, okay, there's something very powerful here. So I put the song on my phone, which I never do, but I did, and Cecilia's version of it that you had. And 2 days later...
With the whales? With the sound of the whales?
The whales, yes. Very powerful. A couple days later, I found out about a dog, which you could Google. It's in the news. A dog by the name of Captain. He was 2 years old. He was training to be a police dog, but didn't make it because they considered him too gentle in nature. He was found in a Kitsilano dumpster, still alive, but horribly beaten. And he later died at the SPCA. Well, that same grief that I felt listening to the song came back to me when I heard this story. And I know a lot of bad stories. I work for Crown. But this one, again, I was leveled by it. I was grief-stricken by what this dog endured, supposedly for months before he died. And there were people in the apartment that heard the beating, and they didn't know what to do. He didn't get help in time. My point is, later, I ended up at the vigil for Captain, that was his name. And a lot of people showed up, and something happened with their song that they wanted to play. And I was there, and I was too shy to speak. Everyone had a chance to say something. And I was too shy, but I thought, you know what? This song, and I played it off my phone, and a reporter was standing beside me and said the song that was meant to play couldn't. So they used that song.
Mm-hmm.
And I just knew that the two were linked. Still in grief, I was vacillating between terrible anger of the situation and pain. And I thought, when is this going to let go of me? I got in my car, I drove. I thought, okay, I'll play the song again. I had it playing in the car. I was on my way to a spiritual bookstore hoping to get some healing. I was out there to get a healing, and I realized I was driving by where Captain had died, and I thought, okay, fine, pull over, just stay here for a couple minutes. Within a couple minutes of playing the song again, a woman came out of that exact building that I had seen in the news.
Mm-hmm.
She came out to my car, and I thought, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. I probably shouldn't be in front of this building. There was a lot of police, a lot of public outcry, and I rolled down my window, and she started telling me about the laundry in her building, and she couldn't figure it out. And I said, well, it's not my building, but I can come help you. I understand the laundromat here in buildings. And so I followed her into this building that haunted my soul. And I'm heading in going, what am I doing here? So I go in, and to make a long story short, she was the mother of the son that found the dog in the dumpster. And I wasn't going to even mention the dog, but when we came out of the laundry room, I ended up standing right beside the door where the SPCA notices and the police notice.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to her, I know about this dog. And she said, that was my son that found him. So we had a conversation, and this is where my anger turned to compassion. She told me that the man was mentally ill. And not only was the dog's rotten food and feces inside with a lot of objects I don't want to describe, but also the man's feces was inside. And something switched for me. And I got in the car, and I realized that there was more to it. And for whatever reason, it helped me with that. I ended up later, I went to someone who's good at channeling, and Captain came through with only messages of love for his owner. And he said that he saw him every day in self-hatred and pain. And his message was of love and compassion.
Right.
And if any animal or anybody in the world had a right to be angry, he was a pure soul. It was an unbelievable.
Wow, what a wonderful story. But the impact that it had on you is what intrigues me, especially in relationship to that song, Amazing Grace. The words in that song. The words in that song are very, very powerful words. I mean, they were written by a man named John Newton, who had a conversion, who actually was a slave ship owner and stopped doing that after an experience that he had at sea, and became the most ardent spokesman for the abolition of slavery in the British Empire back in the 18th century.
I just watched the movie as well, and I'm going to get his
Amazing
book.
Grace. What a wonderful film. If you guys have Netflix or whatever it is out there, and you can get a hold of Amazing Grace, it's a great film about how the slavery was ended in the British Empire, and John Newton was absolutely responsible for that with the writing of that song. But the words in that song are, I once was lost, and now I'm found, and he calls it grace. But grace is just another word for love, you know. And it was love that taught my heart to feel. It was love that brought me home. And I guess because I've spent so much time in the last couple of weeks in preparation for this thing I'm going to be doing in Maui next weekend, I must have 50 books on love. I got, remember Leo Biscaglia, who used to be on public television, and I mean, it's just my whole place where I write. It's just, and I wake up in the morning, I'm reading about love, and I go to sleep at night about it and all of that. And it's basically what the universe is made of. It's the thing that holds the whole thing together. And it's only us, only we. The dog knows to love, you know. And there's a great lesson in what you just told us. Yeah, especially the impact that it had on you.
What was that?
I said, especially the impact that it all had on you.
It changed a lot. It was a feeling that I even asked, I said, why was I led to the apartment? And when he came through, he said, for one, it was for a healing, which I fully understood. And then he said, and I'm on the edge of something. And I think I know what that is. But it's a very hard message. It's a very hard message to love in the face of that. A lot of people,
you know, but honestly, I don't know that it is. I mean, I know we say that, and I agree. I'm nodding at my head in agreement that it's a hard message, but my heart is saying it's not really a hard message. My heart is saying no, it's not hard. It's actually very easy because it's what we are. It's truly what we are, and when we are it, and we are living it, and we are practicing it, and it's all we have to give away, we impact in a huge way. Not only the people around us and so on, but we impact ourselves. I mean, it really shifts us back to it. And basically, we want to get to that place of divine love, which is the love of Christ consciousness. It's the love that Jesus carried with him wherever he went and elevated people's consciousness just by being in their presence. You can get to that loving place. I've seen it at work in a very, very dramatic way. I mean, it's really very, very healing.
Thank you so much.
God bless you. What a wonderful call. Thank you. I loved it.
Thank you.
And her call reminded me of how I felt after hearing about Michael Vick and what happened with those dogs. And I was so horrified. Yeah. And, but then you try to make that shift a little bit and think of, well, what was his life like? Or, there is always, another story that you don't necessarily hear.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. There's a big story in the papers. I was going to talk about that today, but then the inauguration thing came up and everything. And the story, of course, is the story of Lance Armstrong. And I'm watching. One of my favorite people to watch is Piers Morgan. You know who Piers Morgan is?
On CNN.
He took over from Larry King, from England, and because he has all these people on gun control, and and I'm with him on this 100%. And I just would like to see guns banished from our society and so on. So he had that. And then the other night, when Lance had this interview with Oprah, Piers went off on this angry rant about, he's the most despicable character and how he's doing, and he will go down as one of the worst, on and on and on. You could just feel the anger and the hatred coming out of him, the same kind of hatred that comes out of him towards these people who want to have these assault weapons and so on out there. He can't figure that out. I wanted to say to him, it's like when I look at Lance Armstrong, when I look at Michael Vick, when I look at these people, my first thought is, how can I love them? These people have done things that seem so unlovable, and seem so illegal and seem so, inconsistent with what my heart tells me. But if I get angry at them, if I get filled with rage, and if I want to hurt them, or if I want to, any of those kinds of things where you can feel that rage coming out of you, all I have done is double the amount of anger that's out there, the rage, the kind of stuff, the cheating, whatever it is, it's like we have to figure out a way within ourselves, each and every one of us. This is not a collective thing. This is an individual thing, is that when we see people doing things that we don't agree with, or that we don't like or whatever, rather than saying, how can we get even with them? How can we hurt them? How can we punish them? How can we sue them? How can we, whatever, all of the things that we want to do and so on. It's like, how can we send love to these? How can we send love there and understanding and kindness and have that in our hearts, even towards the people who would do us harm, to be able to do that. I mean, that's those people who call themselves, quote, Christians and so on. I mean, that's the essential message of Jesus in the book of Luke in the New Testament. It's like, it's love thy enemies, love the people who do things, be be instruments of love. Love as my Father loves you, as God loves you. And I was, as much as I don't like to see anything hurt, I don't kill anything that comes into my home, whether it's flies or whatever. I understand all of that. But if I'm filled with rage over people who do that, then I'm just as much a part of the problem as the people who are doing that. And that's what divine love is. It's the ability to send love in response to hate, in response to.
Oh, that's a good one. I got to write that down as I'm taking my notes here. Oh, let's see if we can get a few more callers. We have about 9 minutes of the segment.
Sure.
Let's go to Andrea. She's calling from Corona, California on line 3. Andrea, welcome to the show. Thanks for holding.
Oh, no problem.
Hi, Andrea.
Hello. Thank you for taking my call, and thank you for everything you do for this world.
Thank you. That makes me feel good. And thank you for the same thing.
Well, the reason for my call is not about me today. It's about a friend of mine. Her name is Jean, and she's been to several of your I Can Do It conferences, and she's actually met you, which was the highlight of her life.
Oh, my goodness.
She just, whenever she sees you or hears, we go to a spiritual community together, and so we hear a lot of your readings, and she always says, "That's my guy."
No.
And New Year's Eve, she was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, which was a real shock to us all because what we thought she had was pneumonia.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're all really having a difficult time with this. We just want to be strong for her, but yet we're all kind of falling apart ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wondered if you could offer her any words of encouragement, because I know that would mean the world to her.
Well, the first thing I'd like to do is send her a copy of Anita Moorjani's book, Dying to Be Me.
Okay.
So if you'll leave her address and her name there when you hang up, I will have one sent to her today.
Oh, thank you.
So that she'll read that. I'd like you to read it, too, so we'll send one to you, too.
Thank you very much.
It's a very, very powerful thing. And last week I gave a lecture in Las Vegas last Saturday, and the night before, a friend of mine, Kate, gave me this book that she read, and she thought it's called The Proof of Heaven, by a man named Ibn Alexander, who's a medical doctor, who had a very similar experience with death. And my feeling about this is that when you get to this place that Maslow called self-actualization at the top of the pyramid, one of the things they say about it is that of living a self-actualized life is that you no longer identify yourself and even identify reality in terms of what your senses tell you. Your eyes, your ears, your nose, your touch, and so on. And that's all the evidence that comes in, like the cancer reports and all of this. That doesn't become your reality any longer. That's such a wonderful, sort of almost like a U-turn to make in your life, is to begin to identify reality not on the basis of what is visible and what is tangible, but to see reality from the place of the invisible, and to know that everything that materializes dematerializes. And once we get to that place, then we look at something, because you're talking to someone who's been diagnosed with cancer,
Right.
I supposedly have it running through my veins in my blood and so on. And I've had lymphoma on my back from the sun, and so on. So, and I no longer, I just don't identify myself on the basis of what my senses tell me or what the world tells me. I see myself as just a piece of God, as someone who is, originated from the divine, who is infinite. And you can't kill that which has no form, and who I am is formless. The words that are coming out of my mouth into this microphone right now and speaking and going out all over the world are coming from an invisible place. I can't get a hold of it. I can't go inside of myself. I can find the command center inside of my brain, which allows me to have a thought and then express it through this equipment. But I can't find the commander in the command center, which is what God is. It's like it's our highest place. And once Jean understands that who she is God, that's what she came from, because God is love. I mean, it's as pure and simple as that. I mean, God is love, and he that dwelleth in love dwelleth in me, and I in him, and there is no difference between myself and the Father and you when we come from this place of love. And if she can come there, it's the great answer. Very often it's the source of healing. But you get to a point, I don't know, for me, it's like every time I read about somebody dying, and it's every day in the papers, there's somebody out there, some actor that I knew who's my age or a little older or a little younger or whatever, and so-and-so died today, and so on. There was a time when I would say, oh, that's too bad, I really feel awful about that, and so on. And now I just say I'm almost envious of them, because I absolutely have a complete knowing that who I am cannot die. And these two books that I just mentioned to you, Proof of Heaven and Anita Moorjani's book, what they did for me is something I've been trying to do for audiences for years. It's just like take away that whole idea of fear. And you're talking about, what you're talking about right now, Andrea, is the fear that you feel, the anxiety that you're feeling, that your friends are feeling, that she is feeling, and so on. And that's all the opposite of love, so that love is getting rid of fear. It transcends fear. And if you can get past the fear, and if she can get past the fear, the likelihood of the cancer not even being the thing that's going to take her out of this world is much more intensified. But even if it is, then it all becomes just absolutely fine. I'm just going to stay in this divine place of grace. I once was lost, and now I'm found. And it's grace. It's grace. It's this love. And when she can feel that, when she can really feel that, all of that fear goes away. And when the fear goes away, that's when the healing takes place. I would also recommend that she contact John of God. And somebody was on the show, was it Diane 2 weeks ago, the woman? Remember the
Oh, yeah, that was just, I think, last week or the week before, very recent.
It was the week before. It might have been even last week. It was a wonderful thing about a woman who heard me talking about going to John of God and having a remote healing, and then she decided to go down there. Her husband did a fundraiser for her. She went to Abidjania, and she had cirrhosis of the liver, and she had hepatitis C. Martha was her name, in California. You might try to hear that show, Diane. You can probably tell her which one it was. It might have been last week's. If it wasn't, it was the week before.
It's in the description.
Yeah. So I would hear that as well, and maybe have her go down there and just have that experience. Because what happened for me, Andrea, wasn't so much that there was some kind of magical healing that took place, and all of a sudden I went from having leukemia to not having leukemia. What happened is that they took fear out of me. Those entities that entered into my body, and even when I met them in person, those entities just said, here, we'll just extract the fear. And when you extract the fear, the only thing that is left is love. There's an old saying that says, fear knocked at the door, and love answered, and no one was there. It takes away that internal kind of sense of foreboding. And if she can get past that, not only will her healing more likely intensify, but it just won't matter anymore. I just read a wonderful book by Rashid Field, F-E-I-L-D, called To Know We Are Loved. And it was the story of a man who died consciously. And the one thing that all of us just want to know is that we are loved unconditionally by something in this universe. And if you know that, then all the rest of it becomes so minor. I don't know if that helps or not.
She is. That helps a lot. She's very loved, and she had cancer previously, a thyroid cancer, a couple of years ago, and got through that. And then I had a biopsy. They were checking me, and I was waiting for the results, and she was there to support me through that. And and I told her the other night, I said, what helped me the most is when I was waiting for those results to come back, I thought, if the doctor looks at me and says, you have cancer, he's not speaking to me. Maybe my body has cancer, but I don't have cancer.
But who I am isn't. Got to go, Andrea. Leave your address. I want to get Anita's books out to both of you, and try to get a hold of Proof of Heaven. Wonderful book. God bless you. Wonderful show today.
Dr. Dyer, how are you today?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Feeling good. What's on your mind this week in the middle of the summertime?
Well, we're going to take some calls, but I just wanted to share one of the things that I think is really good to do for people, and I just did it this weekend, is go out into nature and really escape from all of the noise and the confusion and all the obstructions and all the people, all the cars, all the sounds, all the noises that are in normal everyday living that we just sort of accept, all the beeping and the air and the blowers and the trucks and the lifters and noise. And there's something about the noises of nature. And this weekend, I live over on West Maui, and I went over halfway over to a place called Hana, which in Hawaiian means heaven. and went to a wedding of my yoga instructor. And she married someone from New Zealand, a Maori. And the whole group of people went out there, and the only thing that we could do out there for the entire weekend, there was 150 people out there, is to camp. So we had to bring tents and sleep outdoors in the camps and then swim in waterfalls and pools for the entire weekend. And it was just really magnificent. And then the night up there, and this is the rainforest, so it rains almost every night. And it rained and rained and rained so hard all throughout the night, from about 1 o'clock in the morning until about 5. And, of course, the water started coming in under the tent, and, it was just one of those kinds of experiences where, normally you won't have to worry about whether you're going to get wet when you're sleeping, and you don't have to be concerned about what bugs are going to be coming in and all of that. It was a wonderful, terrific experience, and I recommend, especially if you're feeling a little tense, feeling a little out of sorts or worked up or nervous or depressed or whatever, is return to your nature. That's what Lao Tzu taught me in the Tao Te Ching, that you'll find God not in some bearded white man floating around in heaven as a sort of a cosmic bellboy, waiting for you to give orders or ask for things. That much more you'll find God or source or spirit in nature, in all of the wonderful ways that nature is presented to itself. And getting out there and experiencing it and living among it and listening. I would go away to meditate just because there was a whole bunch of kids there and so on. I would just go 100 yards away, and any place that I would sit within 10, 15 feet of where I was, there was probably 1 million little creatures, just tiny little bugs, little this, little crickets, little noises and all of that. And that's every cubic inch of space. There is, it seems, something out there that's alive and something to experience and to know. And it's a good way. Nature is extremely healing. It's very therapeutic. I felt very, very peaceful and enjoyed it very, very much. So my recommendation for this week is spend a little time in nature and you'll find God. Okay?
Reconnect with the earth, in other words.
Yeah.
When you said Hana, is that the tiny little
Hana.
town it takes like a 6-hour drive through switchbacks to get to?
A lot of
I believe
switchbacks.
I've done that.
Yes, it is. It's not quite 6 hours, but it's
with a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old in a car seat. It's 6+.
We have we call that our trip from hell. One time that we did, we took 5 of our kids, and they were 5. We had 5 under the age of 8, and we took them all. We hired a limousine many years ago, and they prepared meals and all of that. They took that, and the first kid got a little bit car sick, and she threw up. Then, with, of course, the smell of the throw up in the back that made the next one. So 5 of the kids, by the time we got to Hana, where we were going, even the food in the back had been, it was not a pleasant, it was one of those things.
Oh,
so.
yeah.
It's very much motion sickness and switchbacks, yes. So that's Hana.
I think I remember that. That's
it's called
the
the road
thing that came
to
in
Hana.
my mind.
Yes. Those of you who are coming to Maui, when I do my seminar here in October, the weekend seminar on Excuses Be Gone, you might want to take a look at that trip over to Hana. It's quite an experience. All the way
Beautiful.
over there, there are waterfalls and there are pools to swim in, and
yeah,
I could go on and on about what it was like to swim in. I did a 45-minute swim in one of those pools, just back and forth under a waterfall, and the energy of that was just, it took away some congestion and things that I had had.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really powerful.
We have, first of all, Maura. She's calling today from Dayton, Ohio on line 3. Maura, welcome to the program. You're speaking live with Dr. Wayne Dyer.
Hi, this is a dream come true.
Hi,
and speak
how are
up
you?
as well, if you wouldn't mind.
Yes, I'm in my office, so I'm trying to talk a little low. So can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. First, I want to tell you, you have changed my life tremendously. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
You're a true blessing. And Summer, actually, I was listening to your show, Flow Dreaming, today, and you talked about envisioning presents, like you're a kid on Christmas Day opening presents. And I had this feeling overwhelm me today with that. So this is truly a present.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
Nice.
How may I help you, Mara?
Well, I just made a career change, which is really to the positive. It's a wonderful opportunity for me. And at the same time, my husband is in a transition too, and he's following something he's always wanted to do. My problem, or I shouldn't say problem, but I have this feeling, and I don't know why, that while he makes this change, that he is going to find someone else that is more suiting for him. And I've thought this way for quite a few years, and actually I had this same situation in my last marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And it happened, and I know how we think and we can manifest things, and that's not what my intention is. And I don't know why it comes up.
Well, it comes up because it's been your life experience, and you live in great fear of the same kind of thing replicating itself in your life, and probably are thinking, especially based upon all of the things that you've learned, that you attract into your life exactly what you need at exactly the right moment and the right time. And, you become what you think about, and then you did that. And so now what you've done is you've trained your mind. It's a lot of what we do as we get older. We start using the second half of our life to sort of get over the things that we did in the first half of our life. And with a marriage, very often you start using your second marriage to get over the things that you had to deal with when you were in your first marriage. And if you can understand that that thought is something that you want to be very cautious about. If I were going to have that thought, instead of saying this is something that I'm terrified of and that I fear, I would be putting it into a different perspective, that whatever it is that is your dharma, your relationship to this person that you're married to and that you love very much, if it is to come to an end, and if it's to come to an end in some way that is very similar to what I did the first time, then I'll handle that as well, whatever it is. But right now, I want to put my thoughts on where I am, because I've said it so many times on this program, everything that ever happened to you in your life, and especially in your last marriage, happened to you in the present moment. And everything that's going to happen to you in this relationship is going to happen to you in the present moment. That is, the future and the past are nothing more than illusions. They all occur in the present moment. So your relationship to this marriage is really your relationship to the present moment. So rather than focusing on its ending and some, kind of disaster that you just have imagined for yourself, imagine that whatever it is that comes along, you'll be able to handle it. And if there is somebody out there that is more suited to be with your husband, and that's 10 years down the road or what it is, then that's exactly what you'll handle when that were to show up as well. And in other words, get the disaster out of it. Get the, I call this disasterizing, just getting yourself all worked up. There's an old saying that says, I'm an old man and I've had many troubles, most of which have never happened. Mm-hmm. And, it's like these are all things that we create for ourselves in our mind. Just know that whatever it is that is coming your way in this relationship, know that it is all for your highest good and for your husband's highest good. And who could ask for anything more than that?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right. You're right with that. And in a roundabout way, some of those thoughts too have come about. I'll handle it as it goes, but I don't like having that feeling. And I really, I do daily affirmations where I'm trying to create more positive things with it. So
yeah, but think of it like this, Maura. Think of because what you're talking about is something called worry, and worrying about what might happen, with all the possibilities and so on. Think of it instead of what might happen in the future. Ask yourself this question whenever one of those thoughts pops into your head. That is, why am I using up this present moment, which is all I get in life, all I'll ever get? Why would I want to use it being consumed with something that might or might not happen down the road? Why not instead say to myself that we're married, we're happy, we love each other, and I'm going to be in this moment and I'm going to enjoy. And the more you're able to do that and be there and send that worry thought away, because the worry thought is nothing more than how you're choosing to use up this present moment by consuming yourself with worry. Guilt is the opposite of that. Guilt is using up the present moment to be concerned about something that you did or didn't do or should have done or didn't do right, but you're still doing it in the present moment. So worry and guilt, in my book, Your Erroneous Zones, I call these the useless emotions. They're just useless because all they do is take you away from the moment and have you fill up the moment with something other than what you want to be doing, which is to be in a fully functioning, loving, present moment experience all the time, just being in the now. And if you want to learn how to do that, go out and watch your animals. Because I wrote a book years ago called The Sky's the Limit, and one of the chapters is called First Be a Good Animal. And there's so much that we can learn from, from the creatures out there. Like an otter isn't worried about, whether it's a mate that's going to leave it 2 months from now, or whether it likes somebody else better, or any of those kinds of things. It's just in the moment. It's being an otter. Just be an otter. Just enjoy the moment. And you'll find that all of that other stuff will just pass exactly the way it's supposed to. It'll all unfold perfectly. Mm. And everybody who comes into our life, by the way, everybody who comes in, it's like a play. They have certain roles to play. Some of them in for the whole act, usually your parents and grandparents and so on. They're in for every act of the play. And some of them come in for a short time and then they leave, and some come back. And, everybody's making entrances and exits. And ultimately, we all exit the play, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. It's never worth it. It's all of that anxiety and that stress and that fear and that worry. All you're doing is wasting the present moments of your life, filling them with something that you could otherwise be filling them with. And that's what I would be asking you if I were your therapist. Like, what is it that you could be doing in the moments when you're worried about whether your husband's going to find someone more suited to you? What could you be doing other than that? Supposing that your mind wasn't capable of thinking that thought, what would your life look like if you couldn't think that thought? And how would you feel?
How would I feel?
What if you couldn't think that? What if you just couldn't think that thought that your husband might someday know? What if you couldn't think that?
I would be content. I would be happy with everything because we have a lot together. He's my best friend, and we have so much together now. I would be happy.
So if
I am
happy. If you couldn't think that thought, you would be happy. So the only thing that keeps you from being happy isn't your husband or isn't you. It's that thought.
Yeah.
And if you just decide that I'm in charge of what thoughts that I have, and so now you say, okay, you just go onto you use your imagination, and you go into this imaginary place where you just assume, I can't think that thought. My brain isn't capable of making the chemicals that are going to allow that thought to come to me. And then you start realizing that I am now content. You use the word, I'm content. You would be free. You would be joyful. You would be happy. You would be filled with. And if you read the Tao, if you read Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, there's a whole chapter in there on contentment. That's what Lao Tzu was teaching us all. Just be in a state of contentment instead of wanting something or worrying something or being obsessed about what already happened. Mm-hmm. That's a great call. I'm glad you called this morning.
Thank you so much.
And I love you so much. Thank you, Monica.
I love you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
God bless you.
God bless you, too.
Thanks for your call, Maura. Well, Dr. Dyer, when we let go of that last caller, there was not much time before the break, but one thing Maura made me think about was how some of us worry obsessively about the past, and others, like Maura or myself, we worry about the future. She's worrying about something that's going to happen, and I notice in myself I tend to always worry about the future, but I never worry about the past. Do you think that's just our personalities, or what is human nature?
I think when we call it worrying about the past, I think that's a misapplication of the use worry. The word worry. I've always used any time you use everything you do in the present moment. So when the question always is, why am I using up my present moment this way? Anything that you're using to think about what happened in the past, if it shouldn't have happened, I wish it wouldn't have, I was wrong, I was bad. I call that guilt, and that is and the reason why guilt is a useless emotion is because it's just inconsiderate or inconvenient way of using up the present moment. If you use up the present moment to say, okay, I did this, and I'm going to learn from it, I'm not going to do it again, that's not guilt. That's just called learning from the past. But if you're obsessed about it and worried about it and feeling sad about it, then you're just practicing, one of the most useless things that you can do, which is to feel guilty. Learn from it. But feeling guilty is a waste of the present moment, as is worrying about anything, really. There's a wonderful statement that my teacher in India used to say to me. He said, it makes no sense to worry about the things you have no control over, because if you have no control over them, it makes no sense to worry about them. And then he said, and it makes no sense to worry about the things that you do have control over, because if you have control over them, it makes no sense to worry about them. He said, there goes everything that it's possible to worry about. You either have control or you don't. In either case, worry is a waste of your present moments.
So in any instant, you should just ask yourself, do I have any control over this? Yes or no?
Right.
And move on.
And the answer, and that's what the Serenity Prayer is really about. And grant me the wisdom to know the difference between the things I can control and the things I can't control. And for sure, you can't control anything that's already happened. You just can't control it. Yeah.
That's true.
Okay.
Good distinction there. How about we move to Amanda then? We have a caller from Canada. Alberta, Canada. Amanda, you're on line 2. Welcome. You're speaking with Dr. Wayne Dyer.
Thank you. Hi, Wayne.
Hi, Amanda.
Hello. I just wanted to say my mom and my sisters and I enjoyed you at the Las Vegas I Can Do You conference.
Oh, yes.
We listened to your lecture, and it was very good. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
Did you say I can do you? I like that, but it was I can do it.
That's what I heard, too.
I don't want anybody out there thinking, okay, what did Wayne and Amanda, what were they up to? I can do you in Las Vegas.
What was going on in Vegas? It stays in Vegas, guys. Okay.
I can do you in Vegas. I like that. I think we're going to change it to that. That's great.
Oh, yeah.
You Canadians, you're so bad.
What else is on your mind, Amanda?
Well, what's been on my mind for the last month is I have a tendency. I'm just looking for some words of wisdom. I've been feeling this deep resentment inside of me, and I feel like my ego jumps out at the best of times. And I'm trying to, really work hard at going inside my heart. But every time, a certain situation comes up, whether it's with my family or someone else, it's just I feel like I'm going through my head, and I would like to get some words of wisdom.
What kinds of things cause you to have this resentment, though? Let's
see. Well, I feel that I've never been a person to feel this angry inside, and I've always come from peace and loving words, and lately I've been feeling that they're not coming out of me, and I'm doing my best to, do my affirmations or in my angel cards, but I've never been this way, and I'm not sure how to answer your question, but...
Yeah. How old are you, Amanda?
31.
31. Are you married?
No. No, I've been single for about 4 years.
You were married?
Oh, no. Just in different relationships.
I see. Yeah. I think sometimes when we use the word resentment about, what's happening and it causes us to go inside and express itself in angry words and so on, that's the time when you have to, it isn't going to be affirmations that are going to heal that for you. It's going to be there's generally speaking, there's a wound in there someplace. There's some kind of something going on in there that you're not at peace with. And it isn't even locating it as much as, I always like that quotation that I give from Moby Dick, from Melville, for as this appalling ocean surrounds the verdant land, so in the soul of man lies one insular Tahiti, full of peace and joy, but encompassed by all of the horrors of the half-lived life. And the half-lived life is what I always suspect when I hear what you're saying, because likely you're not, you're 31, so you've moved into your 30s now. Now you look back and say, oh, my God, my 20s are gone already, And it's like, and here I am 31, and my next one's 40s, and then, oh, my God, that's just ancient, and it's like you got to kind of get on with, what am I here for? What's my purpose? What is all of this about? And, the real purpose of life is to enjoy it, and if you're not able to do that, you have to go to that insular Tahiti and go to that place of inner peace and joy. Generally, the best thing to do is what Lao Tzu recommends, which is to start living the virtues. Start taking the focus off of yourself, off of me, off of my relationships, off of what's working and not working, off of my job, off of how much money I'm making, off of what my parents think or anything. Like all of that, like just take you out of the picture and suspend yourself. Let that ego part of you go and instead reach out. Reaching out and serving. Find yourself in a place where you can go out there and extend joy, extend peace, extend kindness someplace in some way to someone. I don't need to tell you how to do that because that's really easy to do. You can turn around in the next 5 minutes after you hang up the phone and do it. Just reach out in love in some way or find someone less fortunate than you or donate $20 to something or whatever it might be. And the minute that you start taking your focus off of yourself, you become more godlike. You get into that place where you're starting to understand this is what it means to be God realized. This is what Lao Tzu meant when he said be Tao centered. Act like God does. Act like the Source does. Act like the Tao does. And what does the Tao do? It's always serving. It's always giving. It's always concerned with, abundance and providing and offering and sharing and loving and it's all natural. It's all natural. And I was thinking, you're in Alberta, and I can remember one time going into Alberta. Do you know where Lake Louise is?
Yes.
And have you ever been up there to Banff and Lake Louise?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, that would be such a... I was thinking, I don't know how anybody could be unhappy or depressed or anything when they're in a place like that. That might be a really good spot for you to just go up there and contemplate and be, rather than focusing on Amanda.
Okay.
Okay?
Right. Well, thank
So
you.
head to Banff.
I will.
Lake Louise is calling you. It's the most... I think it's the most pristine, beautiful place in all of North America.
Well, I went there during my years of when I was in the choir in my junior high years, but I haven't been since. So I've been wanting to go somewhere. So.
That's the perfect place, I'm telling you. For some reason, I could see you meditating right by those mountains there and right in that beautiful spot.
Oh, good. All right.
So that's my little psychic ploy for today. Get you to Lake Louise and just be. And then see how much serving you can do, how much focus you can take off of yourself, and how much reaching out that you can do in the time, especially while you're on your way there.
All right. Well, thank you.
Okay, sweetheart.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thanks,
God bless
Amanda.
you.
Bye.
Namaste.
Appreciate it. All right, Dr. Dyer, we have Marie calling you now from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Marie, you're on line 1. Welcome. You're speaking with Dr. Wayne Dyer.
Hi, Dr. Dyer.
Hi, Marie. How are you?
Good. I'm so excited to get to talk to you. I've been reading your books for years, and I love them, and they've been a big help to me.
Oh, thank you very much. I love your town. I've been up there many times.
Yeah. My question is, I'm feeling stuck, mostly in my career, but also in my personal life and finances, too. And I know I feel like I want to change, but I don't know what to do, so I just feel paralyzed, like I'm not doing anything. And then I'm frustrated because I feel I want to change but don't know what next step to take.
So the reason why you're stuck is?
Mostly it's centered around my career. I've been doing the same type of work for 28 years, and I stay with it because I need the money, and part of it is I'm self-employed, and it works. Part of it works as far as, like, I get to set my own hours. So I like that aspect of it, but I don't enjoy the work anymore. And it's just draining to go to work. It just feels like it's sucking the life out of me.
Oh, well, then you just have all of the excuses that you're using for not making that change, which are probably in the neighborhood. I wouldn't be as financially secure.
Big one, yep.
Other people in my family wouldn't understand that.
Yep.
There would be family drama that I would have to deal with. I would be frightened because I would be entering into new territory that I've never been in before, and it's not my nature to be risky. It's more my nature to be safe. Is that correct?
Right, yep.
Yeah, because you wouldn't be in the same place for 28 years. See, all of these are, you're the perfect person. I want you to read my new book, Excuses Be Gone. I wish I had it done for you.
It'll be done. Wait. I heard about it.
It'll be out next year. Yeah, and it's really about some of the stuff we've been talking about here today is to really go to look at the thoughts that you have, all of those excuses that I just laid out for you. If you were to ask the question, the very first question, I have what I call an Excuses Be Gone paradigm. And this paradigm is like you ask yourself a series of 7 questions. The first question you ask yourself, is it true? And then you look at, where did it come from? And then you look at, what if I couldn't think these kind of thoughts? And then you begin to look at coming up with rational reasons to change it. But right now, for you have all the rational reasons in the world to change that, because the description that you just gave, it's gnawing at me, it's painful, it hurts for me to make those kind of changes. I always think, what if you couldn't think those kind of thoughts? What if that wasn't a possibility? And if you were totally free, if you were completely free and didn't have to worry about all those things that I just laid out, what would you be doing? That wouldn't make you feel so constrained and so, even unworthy of the kind of stuff that you're going through in your life? What would you be doing? Do you know?
I always lean towards the arts, writing. I enjoyed it in school, and I still enjoy it. I just haven't done anything with it. I just got caught up in everything else, and I haven't. But I always go back to drawing or writing, and I've thought of writing children's books. I've kind of dabbled it in about 10 years ago, and then I let it go and didn't do anything with it. But it still comes back to me.
What would keep you from doing that?
I think part of what happens is I have the idea, but then I know I do this to myself. I think too far ahead because it's like, okay, if I write something, then what do I do with it? I don't know what. I think I jumped too far ahead. I don't know what steps to take.
Right. And that's a theme of what we're talking about here today. That's really so we get into this worry theme, about, so if I were to do this, then this would be the consequence. And then if I were to do this, and so instead of using your mind and your time and your life energy to be doing what you really, truly enjoy, which is the whole purpose of life, instead, you're using it. The minute that you stop, you say, no, I'm not deserving of that. I'm not worthy of that. And then I'm not going to be able to make money. And what are my family going to think if I were to do that? And so all of that stuff that you twist, I call these memes, these are just the thoughts that we have had implanted in our minds from your parents and their parents, and endlessly it goes back into all of this worry stuff. And instead, the way out of it is to say, okay, the artwork. Someone I was on the radio show with last week named Magli in New York. I don't know if you heard the show, but she talked to me about a painting that she had done of Lao Tzu, and I finally got it. It was sent to me. It arrived last week. I think it was 2 weeks ago we did that. Well, it's one of the most beautiful creations. In fact, it was so terrific that when I got it and I put it up on my wall, I was so inspired by it, I sat down and wrote her a check for $1,000 and sent it to her, just because I wanted her to know that her first painting deserved, that kind of reward for it. And I think she's going to be a very famous artist. And I would say the same to you. Instead of going through all the worry anxiety, just be in the present moment. Just be in that and practice that a little bit instead of all that worry time.
All right.
Okay,
Thank
sweetie?
you so much.
Thank you. God bless you, my friend.
And Dr. Dyer, shall we continue on with our next person
Yes.
here?
Mm-hmm.
I see. Oh, boy. I don't know what's happening, but these Canadians, they're just coming out of the woodwork today. Half the calls right now are coming from Canada. Let's find out what Blaine in Lindsay, Ontario, has to say to you today. Blaine, welcome. You're speaking with Dr. Wayne Dyer.
Thanks, Summer. Wayne, this is a thrill to get to speak to you today.
Thank you, Blaine.
I was able to see you in Detroit and Toronto, and when I saw you in Toronto, it was the I can do it, not like the other Canadian.
Not I can do me, right?
Yes, exactly. And
I'm glad you didn't say that.
Yeah, see, and so am I. And I don't know if you remember in Detroit, my daughter had done up a wonderful letter for you, and she's still wanting you to do a kids meeting at some point with all the kids. You've made some great kids book, which we love.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah. I think I do recall that.
Well, that's me. Well, I sensed I needed to call today, and obviously I've gotten through, and I'm a little nervous, but bear with me. 3 years ago, your book Inspiration just hit everything, kind of set me on a different track, so it's been amazing. My question today is, I have a business that I've been doing for 15 years with my sister, and I really am kind of worried that we need to deal with selling it and moving on, and I've got a whole lot of different things that have come to me that I want to do, and I'm wondering if I've maybe giving myself too many things to jump into, or if I should narrow it down, or, and again, I always worry about doing the right thing and attracting prosperity and not doing something silly, so.
Well, first of all, the attracting prosperity business is like, just know that that's the only thing that you can attract. And, as long as you keep your focus not so much on how's it going to happen, when's it going to happen, what is the divine timing, because divine timing really means it's already in much bigger hands than yours. And just constantly use the affirmation that it's on its way, whatever it is that in the way of prosperity is on its way. But, you've been doing a business for 15 years. Is getting rid of that business or selling that business or moving on from that business, is that something that you can see happening for yourself, or is it a fearful thing?
Yeah, ideally that's what I would love to have happen, and we're kind of at the end of our current negotiations and agreements, so it would be a good time to try and sell it. But dealing with, being up, our upbringing was different thoughts than what you've introduced me to. Was almost like don't expect great things, and work hard, and you may get some money or you may not, and assuming that it that we won't be able to sell it. So those type of thoughts are there in my circle, I guess you would call it.
Yeah. Sort of the old idea that life really is a sexually transmitted, terminal disease. So that we're all just going to die anyway. So none of it is, but you don't think like that any longer anyway.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, I think for you, I don't know. I can't get a reading on anything intuitively, but I can just sense that whatever it is that you put your attention on, and if your question is, am I thinking too many things and having too much stuff come into me? That's the creative process. You know, like the creative source doesn't say, oh, I'm making too many mosquitoes. Well, what about rose bushes? Well, I need to make some, antelopes and all. The creative source is in a constant state of creating, and there's never any restriction. There's never any limitations. It's just constantly giving, offering, and providing. And when you move into this kind of realization, which you must be, especially if you attended, the conference in Detroit and so on, and you're thinking about these ideas, you're reading books like Inspiration, you have a deep knowing inside of you that you are totally unlimited, that whatever it is. I mean, I sit here right now at the age of 68, and I know that if I decided to change careers right now and just go into something completely different, something I had never even done before, being a sports announcer or whatever it is, that I know that it's all I would have to do is put my attention on it, and the universe would send me, the right people, the right events, the right circumstances. It would all just begin to show up. You almost get, it's hard to explain this, but you almost get a sense of that whatever it is I would really, whatever it is I want to manifest or attract into my life, whatever it might be, that there's absolutely no limit to it whatsoever. And you get, the right word isn't arrogant, but it's the word that keeps going. You get almost like a knowing that is so powerful that there's nothing can dissuade you from it, Nothing can come in there and say, no, this can't happen, this isn't going to work, these are all the obstacles, these are all the reasons where. All of that stuff is, that's the work of other people. That's the work of people in the past who have tried to make these, try to make your life safe and try to do the right thing by you, and all with good intentions, but always with limitations, and always with, you have to watch out for the outcome. Yeah. And now you're moving into that. You're moving into the same place that you're going to move into when you die, when you leave this body behind, when you just, this place of oneness. And oneness is a very difficult concept for us to grasp, because we're always in two-ness. We're always in, not just the thing, but the symbol of the thing, and what will happen, and what circumstances might, and we introduce conflict. There's always this inclination of the mind to go into this area of conflict, but what ifs, but when you're in oneness, when you're in total oneness, it's all perfect. And every one of these thoughts that are bombarding your consciousness now, they're coming in there just to sort of wake you up and have you realize that there's absolutely no limit whatsoever. You just make the decision, whichever way you want to go. Practice living the virtues, practice being out there and serving and honoring others and servicing yourself and God and our planet, and the right thing will come your way. I know that's a long, windy answer, but...
Well, I needed it all, I'm sure, and I have one major project that I want to lead forward to, it came to me when I was just reading your first book, and it actually woke me up in the middle of the night, and I had to draw it all out, and so I've been working on it for 3 years, and I always go back to your point of doing it just one step at a time and not thinking it has to be here right immediately.
Yeah. But there's a big difference between thinking, because I always say in the Tao it says think small, don't think big, because, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with that step, that single step, and that's all you can do is just take the next step and the next and the next. But that doesn't mean that you don't have big vision.
No.
It doesn't mean, because in the Tao it says that the Taoist masters or what they call sages, a sage accomplishes great things by thinking small, by thinking about what I can do in this moment. But you don't say that great things aren't going to come my way and I'm not going to be able to, do all of those things because I'm focused on this moment. But the more you stay focused on this moment, like I've been writing this book on Excuses Be Gone since every single day since around the 1st of February of this year. And I just passed on last Friday page 425 of handwritten pages. That's not how many book pages, but 425 pages I have filled by thinking about what I can do. But I've always had the vision of this thing being completed. In fact, I have a picture of what the book is going to look like before I even start the book there, so that I know that it's already complete. I'm just sort of filling in the pieces. I'm filling in the pieces. And if you can see yourself as doing that, and if you get pulled, and it doesn't mean I'm not doing other things. My goodness, I'm making a film. I'm doing, I've got all kinds of things that are going on. I'm giving lectures around the world. It's all over the place. But it's like there's just this kind of this knowing that this isn't me doing it all. It's like you get this awareness that you're letting yourself be lived by it instead of you living it. Just letting it take you wherever it's going to take you and being at peace with it. It's like that beautiful song I ended one of my PBS shows with. It says, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. There's so much wisdom in that. It's like row, row, row. It means do, work, work, work. Just whatever. More row your boat. Don't row somebody else's boat. And row it gently, always in harmony with God. And do go down the stream. In other words, don't go up the stream and fight it and all of that. And do it merrily, because in the end, it's all a dream. It's just all one big dream. We're all characters in God's dream. So there's great wisdom in that simple little song.
It sure is. Well, and you've got lots of it, and I thank God for you every day and what you've done.
Well, thank you, Blaine.
Yeah.
God, so nice to talk to you.
Thanks a lot, Blaine.
Thanks.
Yeah.
God bless you.
Take care.
Namaste.
Well, Dr. Dyer, we have time for one more caller this hour. Let's go now to Jennifer. She's calling from New York. New York. We hear a lot from New York. Jennifer, hi. How are you?
Great. How are you doing?
Hi, Jennifer.
Hey, Dr. Wayne Dyer. I have a car full of fans of yours.
A car full of what?
Fans. My dad, my sister, my mom, too. But we're all coming to see you in New York City, too.
Oh, great. In October the
yes.
7th.
Yes.
At the Jacob Javits Center. That's going to be great. That's always a wonderful night. That's when I always feel like, I'm a rock star, you know? Because New Yorkers are so great, you know? I love New York.
They dress up, too.
Yeah.
Unlike us in California and Hawaii.
What's on your mind, beautiful?
I'm just getting out of a very rough relationship, 4.5 years now, and I found out the whole time he was cheating on me. And I loved him more than I've loved anyone. I'm 31 years old now, and I thought I'd be with him, you know. And I'm not sure how I'm going to get past this because I need to be strong enough on my own to stay away from him. And
wait a minute, because we don't have too much time. How does he feel about this relationship breaking up?
He just will just deny and lie, and he'll just doesn't want me to leave.
So he's still in love with you, and you're still in love with him. And the reason why you can't be together, even though you're both in love with each other, is because he cheated on you?
Well, it's continuing distrust issues. There isn't any trust. Mm-hmm. And he's also.
But what does the trust center around? Is it around money? Does he steal from you?
Oh no, he's a musician and he has a lot of groupies.
Yeah.
So and it hasn't changed.
But there's so much that we do with this. I wish I could, wish I had hours to talk about that. It's this whole idea that we believe that because you're in love with somebody else and that other person has, maybe expressed love towards somebody else or had sex with somebody else, or whatever it is, that makes it all impossible. And it's like we get this idea that, if you're not exclusive to me, that we're trying to really make ourselves into these monogamous creatures, who only have eyes for each other, and we fall in love with each other and we never look at anybody else. But gosh, my experience after all of these years is that that's just basically hardly ever the case, and yet we just have this sort of this standard that we have for each other. I would practice a lot of forgiveness here. I would really have conversations with him. I would tell him what hurts and why, but I don't know that I would, unless this person is just like a dishonest person in the sense of, really being abusive or stealing or things like that. If he just loves you, but has, maybe there will come a time when he can be in that place of being totally exclusively yours. But I hate to see two people who really adore each other and really love each other break up on the basis of something that just seems to be built into our DNA, this idea of looking out there somewhere else. And this isn't a justification for people cheating. It's more of an awareness that, that as human beings, we try to put standards on ourselves that sometimes there's something internal that within us that just won't allow it. And we try to fight that internal thing,
Yeah.
Does that make sense, or am I...
No, it makes sense, and I wish I could just feel that and be natural with that. I mean, he has been abusive in the past, but he's gotten much better. Like, he'll have a temper, but he's changed in that respect, and he has changed.
So we only have a minute left, so that's why I'm interrupting you. So he has shown that he's got tremendous growth potential. How old is this man?
He's 34.
I wouldn't give up on him yet, dear. I wouldn't give up on him yet. That's just my intuition with only 30 seconds or so to go. But I wouldn't give up. If this is a person who has gone from abusive to non-abusive, who has shown that he can grow, who is, he might surprise you. He might surprise you. He might surprise you a lot. I'd at least practice a little forgiveness. And even if you do let him go with love. You know, don't send him out of your life with anger and resentment and that he wasn't like you are. His DNA's different than yours. You got to love him for what he is. We love the things we love for what they are.
Well, thanks for your call, Jennifer. We've got to let you go right now because our show's wrapping up. Thank you, Dr. Wayne Dyer.
Okay. God bless you.
Dr. Wayne Dyer is joining us from Maui. Well, we've got a lot of calls lined up, but before we do that, I just wanted to ask you if you had heard about the actor, speaking of Oscars, Philip Seymour Hoffman.
I did.
And I just thought that I was really struck by that because I always loved that actor. I enjoyed his work and you know, I just think so many people are struggling with that problem with addiction, you know, and here's someone you think, this guy's an actor. His life is great, you know, and he obviously had some demons.
Well, it's I have two thoughts about that. One is that heroin is sort of made a reappearance, I guess, because they've made it just more available and it's not as expensive, but it's every bit as lethal as it was, and there aren't very many people who get into the habit of doing that who escape from it.
Right. Well, a lot of people go from the prescription drugs to the heroin because they can't get that anymore.
Yeah. So this is really a huge, huge issue. And the other is that this man was an immensely talented actor. One of the top. He was equivalent to like a Marlon Brando, you know, of his time. Just really a profoundly talented and gifted actor who played many, many different roles. I mean, he played Truman Capote. And when you would watch him, you just knew that he had a very, very special quality. And generally speaking, that people who are exceptionally talented and exceptionally good at something all the way to the right, to the left, and I'm not speaking politically here now, there is, so if moving right is like moving more towards your spirit and higher consciousness, then the opposite direction is moving away from it. And very often these people have a very deep, dark side. That there's almost like a balancing, that people who are very exceptional people in almost any field, generally when you hear, you know, I just know this from looking at the lives of great poets and philosophers and spiritual teachers and so on, that there's that, and you have to be aware of that. I know myself, because I put myself in that category, that I've also gotten myself earlier in my life into some deep difficulties because as much as I like to really explore and become as highly spiritual and, you know, and studying and so on to the right, there's that part that wants to walk closer and closer and closer to the edge. And I've done that in my life. And I understand what he was going through. The only problem with it, when you get into these kinds of substances, that there's almost no coming back from them. You know, there's very, very few people are ever able to do it. I felt deeply saddened by that, and the awareness. I know that the governor of Vermont, when he gave the State of the State address, addressed the entire State of the State address that he gave this year. It was televised. Was devoted to the heroin problem in the state of Vermont. That's how bad it's becoming with young people. He didn't talk about anything else other than we've got to get, as legislators and as a people, we've got to get behind what we can do to keep these kind of you know, very, very, very strong and lethal drugs out of the hands of our people. And one of the ways, of course, we've really got to look at it is we're trying to get the FDA to upgrade the what they call schedule, like Schedule 1, Schedule 2, Schedule 3 drugs, and these oxycodone and all of these pain pill drugs like Percocets and so on. They're just almost dispensed with alacrity out there. They hand them out, and they're highly, highly addictive, and they're very, very close. And you know, there's something like 17,000 overdoses and deaths in those kinds of drugs in our country every year. So losing that many citizens, when if we upgraded it and made it as difficult to get a hold of those kinds of prescription drugs as it is to get a hold of, you know, the very, very, very strong painkillers, you know, that only can be administered by a physician, by, you know, in a hospital settings and so on. We need to really look at that. Like drugs like morphine, for example, you can't go out and just buy morphine, and then they want to elevate.
Pharmacy.
Right. Pardon?
I said you can't go to a pharmacy and just
no,
say,
you can't
go
to a pharmacy and can't write a prescription for it. And they're trying to get these very, very strong OxyContin and Percocets and so on that are causing so much addiction moved up to a higher schedule so that they're not so easily accessible and available for people.
Yeah, I just wanted to see what you thought about that, because I know you've had, some similar issues, not with heroin, of course, but
No, never done anything like that.
But there's
in
so
my
many
own family,
people in pain, and I
One of
just
my
hear
daughters
from
right.
So many callers that are in a similar situation. So, well, we
And
have.
the other thing is, if you are in that situation, is to just to go to your I am presence, go to the God within yourself, and insist upon shifting out of it, and you'd be surprised. There are people who just drop away from it, just let it go. Ram Dass used to always tell the story of his guru who, when he came to India after he left Harvard as Richard Alpert and became this great spiritual teacher who's a dear friend of mine, and he had brought some drugs like they're called LSD drugs, and his guru found out that he had them and took all of them right in front of him and didn't have any impact on it. And Ram Dass was just shocked that he could actually take them. And he said he made a decision right there that he knew. He said, when you're his line, which I love, he said, when you're already in Detroit, you don't have to take a bus to get there. That was his line, which means that if you're already in a higher enlightened state of just bliss, then you don't have to take anything to get there. It's like you have that within yourself to be able to create that, and to have that awareness within you that you don't have to take pills in order to get to a blissful state. You don't have to take anything. All you have to do is just access your connection to God.
Right.
We say a deep prayers to Philip today. How do you say his full name?
Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Hoffman.
And his family, and any other people who are dealing with that.
He has young children, I understand.
Yeah, three kids, and not much. I'm not much older than he, so I guess that's why it kind of struck home.
I think he's 46.
46.
Yeah.
So we'll think of him today.
Yes.
So would you like to grab somebody before our break?
Sure, let's grab somebody.
Yeah, we got like 6 minutes. So let's start in Portland and go to Jeannie on line 1, and she's in Portland, Oregon.
Hi, Jeannie.
Hello. Oh,
Hi there.
How are you?
I'm great, thanks. How are you, my dear?
I am good. Thank you for taking my call.
You're very welcome.
So I'm in the middle of writing a book, and I guess genre-wise, it's kind of a wellness memoir. And it started out, I was going to write a whole different book really about listening to your intuition, and it still is hugely about that and following it and letting, that inner guidance from above, let that lead your life and how it brings you through life. And, a lot of what you basically, I think, teach, but through my story. And, when I was young, I was like 17 when I started writing letters to God. And each time I wrote, I felt so much better. And then I would take them and just immediately go burn them in the fireplace. And when I was 25, my brother died, and I actually bought a hardcover book and started writing in that, and just couldn't bear to throw what I'd written away. So now, 27 years later and 41 journals later, I'm writing this. And I did go down to Hay House and take their workshop, and Jennifer Grace, who I think you might know, is doing a book proposal class. I'm doing that, and I'm following what she's saying to do to get this book proposal done. And it's just, we were at what little just of the story is, I was married for 26 years, had a really beautiful life. We were kind of the nucleus of our family, our friends, nieces, nephews. And then my husband went and had an affair with a 27-year-old girl, which was our oldest daughter's age. And so we were just broken apart. And if you can imagine a spider web, we were the center. Now there's all this brokenness. And as I'm going and reading through my journals to write my book, because I've actually have a beautiful life now. And it's been 2 years since my divorce, almost to today, I think, which is weird. And I have a really beautiful life, but everyone else, I feel like it's my family, my nieces, my nephews, friends, they're all still back in. They're trying to wrap their head around what even happened in the first place, and there's still all this brokenness. And it's almost like I'm at this point of writing where I need a little release somehow. And I don't know if you ever wrote something that, you're going back and reading and having a lot of awareness and writing it, and it's hard to write. How do you push yourself forward through that? And
I think the way to do that, Jeannie, is to see this 27-year-old person that your husband had an affair with as a gift from God, as a teacher. I did a film called My Greatest Teacher, which was really the story of my relationship and trying to find my father. It turns out that what he did when I was a young boy and all of his horrible, crass behavior and so on were really the impetus for my being able to reach to higher and higher levels. And while you're reviewing that and looking at that in your writing and so on, instead of coming at it from a place of brokenness, come at it from a place of completeness, and realize that she was sent into your life probably to help you to, first of all, get to that place of freedom that you feel now, as a result of it. And secondly, to help you to look back upon it as you write about it, not from a place of this is terrible and it shouldn't have happened, which is what so many of your family members are doing, but from a place of gratitude, of being in a space of gratitude, and write from that place of gratitude, and allow the divine guidance that brings to you, to come to you and to flow through you. And you'll watch your writing. Because when I wrote, I Can See Clearly Now, and I really encourage you to read that when it comes out.
Yes, I keep wanting to hear it and read it. And
especially in terms of what you are asking me about right now, because I did a lot of reliving as I went through that, and I began to write from. First, I started right from that place of the pain and the hurtfulness, like when my wife and I separated, or when I found out I had leukemia, or when I was living in an orphanage, and all of the kinds of things that have been benchmarks in my life, and I would find myself just feeling much more spiritual, much more peaceful when I looked at it as gifts rather than. Thanks for your beautiful call. God bless you today.
So going back to the phones, let's see, where should we go? Let's go to Kelly in Kansas City, Missouri on line 3. And Kelly, welcome to the show. You're on with Dr. Wayne Dyer today.
Hello. Thank you.
Hi, Kelly.
My call.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great, thanks.
Well, I just had a question. I know you've talked about your father and how you forgave him. I've heard the story a few times. You told it. What I'm wondering is, I've been to that place actually it's with my husband. And, just things from the past. Okay, we need to get over it, and I really feel like I've forgiven and it's over and let's move on. And then something will happen maybe a few weeks later. He has a very bad temper sometimes, so, that will come on again. And, the past 15 years of everything that I thought I forgave is all right back in my face, and I just am so angry. And he can just really be very sweet and nice, and then turn on a dime. And just my children are starting to be affected by it. My oldest child is, to the point where she doesn't even want to be around him. And it's a lot of anger in the house. So
yeah, is there alcohol at all involved?
No, not really. No, actually, no, not at all. Every once in a while, he'll drink, but nothing, no.
But this temper thing, was it when you first met, before you were even married, and when you were in that early stage of, did you ever see that surface?
Actually, when I look back, yes. It's always been like this, and I think I had such low self-esteem that I just took it, and I've kind of gotten over that, worked on myself, and it's not quite as, it seems like it has dissipated, but it's a lot of times has now turned on my oldest daughter, and so now I know exactly how she feels. She loves him, but in another way she just hates him.
Does it ever go beyond just words?
Yeah, not really too physical, but just like pushing maybe once or twice. But just it can be very, very mean, and just even when he's not really angry, just little jabs. And just what was his relationship, in a sentence or two, what was his relationship like to his father? His father, he really got along good up until recently, and now they still get along, but he drives him crazy. Pretty much everybody drives him crazy. But yeah, his father was, the way he describes him was nothing, very easygoing, happy, and Now, there was some alcohol involved with that, but very happy kind of a person.
Right. Okay. So what you're looking for, I mean, we only have a few minutes, so it's like what you're looking for is a way to deal with and live with someone who's got a bit of, I mean, bipolar is too strong a word because it sounds too technical and too diagnostic and so on, but basically that's what you're talking about. Someone who can just be on an even keel, can be up, can be happy and so on, and then something can trigger it and off he can go. And for some reason, he has come to believe that he has the right to abuse the people around him, especially the people that love him and care the most about him. Is that correct?
That is very correct, yes.
And he can do that with words and just an occasional pushing and so on, but just launch into one of those kinds of things. So what you need to understand is something I wrote about in my second book for the public, many of you, called Pulling Your Own Strings, which I would recommend you read, by the way. It's called Pulling Your Own Strings. And basically my theory on all of this is that you get treated in life the way you teach people to treat you. So that rather than putting it on him, because if you're waiting for him to change in order for you to be happy, you might just be consigning yourself to the role of victim for the rest of your life. Right. So what you want to do is stop teaching him that it's okay for him to, even if he has his, all the reasons within him, and to be able to, this person is wrong. His own father drives him crazy. His daughter drives him crazy. You drive him crazy, whatever it might be. And he thinks that it's somebody else that is doing all of this to him. He is basically just reacting that way. Because I guarantee you that he wouldn't, if I were at your home and a guest in your home, he wouldn't do that to me. He wouldn't yell at me. No. There are lots and lots of places where he absolutely knows how to control himself when he's frustrated. I mean, I'm sure he doesn't do that at work, or not very often, because he wouldn't be at work if he did. So he really has within him the tools to know how to suppress that and to just overlook it. But when it comes to certain people, he just has given himself the right to do that. And the only reason he's got the right to do that is because you've given him permission to do it for whatever reason, in whatever form that you've given that permission. I know you don't want it. I know that you're, it's not something that you're looking for, but you have taught him that you're willing to treat. So what you want to do is embark on a program to teach him that that kind of behavior is no longer tolerable in your life, that you've taught him that you're willing to put up with that in whatever way that you have done it over the years, and same with your daughter and same with your father-in-law. But now what you're going to do is teach him something new, so that when the next time that he does this and has one of these outbursts and so on, I would talk about it with him when you're not in when he's not in one of those places, Right. When you're having dinner or whatever, and just say that I have decided that I'm not going to, when you have one of those emotional breakdowns and so on, and start yelling at either me or our children or whomever, that I'm not going to put up with that anymore. It causes me too much pain. And I just want you to know that what I'm going to do when I see it surfacing is I'm going to leave. I'm going to leave the premises. No matter how inconvenient it is, no matter what it is, I'm going to not stay in the presence and allow you to do that. And I'm going to also tell our daughter that's what she's going to do as well. And even when you see it just beginning to surface, you stand up and you just say, excuse me, I'm just not going to be here right now. And you leave. You lock yourself in the bathroom. You go to the car. You go, drive yourself someplace. You walk out of the house. Whatever it may, no matter how embarrassing it may be, now you're going to fundamentally change the way that you teach this man to treat you. Ultimately, if he, gets even worse, then you just say, okay, I just don't choose to live under these conditions any longer. And I'm going to get divorced, or I'm going to separate. I'm no longer willing to be the victim of a person who knows how to control these things under certain circumstances, but chooses not to when he's with me and our family. It's a choice that he is making, not that he got a personality defect that he can't control. Unless he's just going around doing this to strangers and things like that. It doesn't sound like that's
he's
the situation.
Completely the opposite with other people.
Yeah.
Other people
Right.
that know him wouldn't believe that in a minute. They'd think he's the greatest, nicest guy.
And I might even play this back to him. What because you can go online and this will play all week, this show, and you might even play it for him. This is like I called in. Nobody knows your name or anything, and this was the question I had, and this was the response, and this is what I'm going to do. Right. How does that? What is that? Does that sound sensible to you, or something that you could do, or?
Yes, it does. Yeah, it's almost like I needed somebody to say it because it's kind of what I was thinking in the back of my mind.
Right.
Like I can't just sit here and listen and
do
See,
that.
I raised my children this way. I always told them if they would raise their voice, if they'd get frustrated, they'd yell at their mother, they'd yell at me, or whatever it might be. And children do these things, and teenagers do these things, and so on. And if they would ever direct those kinds of comments towards me, I would just put up my hand and I'd say, wait a minute, hold it right there. I have too much respect for myself to allow anybody to talk to me in that fashion. It isn't because I think you're so bad. It's just like this is such an affront to who I am that I'm no longer going to allow this to do. And when I would raise my and put my hand up to like put a stop to that, it would stop. They no, Dad doesn't put up with this because he respects himself. Right. Now, Mom has got to respect herself enough to be willing to do this because, you know, it's ultimately going to lead down an even worse road. It's going to, as long as he knows that he can get away with this and you're going to stick around, it'll continue.
Right.
And you can do this very nicely and very quickly. When he starts behaving it, you just get up, you go get in the car, drive, go for a walk, go into the bathroom if you can't, you know, just lock the door in there and just stay, you know, until it's over with. And you'll teach him very, very quickly that this is not something that I'm willing to tolerate for one reason and one reason only. I have too much respect for myself to allow anybody to talk disrespectfully to me. Awesome. That's my advice.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. So good. And by the way, when you change the atmosphere like that and do that, you will impact him. If you react with anger to yourself and allow, you know, get into arguments and tell him I don't want to do this, and you have, you know, you may have things that just that come out that you don't want to come out. You have to remember that if you don't eliminate darkness in your life, and this is darkness that you're talking about, you don't eliminate darkness by throwing more darkness at it. You eliminate it by throwing light at it. And that's what I'm asking you to do, throw light at it. Like, teach him I'm not going to allow myself to be placed into this darkness any longer. And it's like the line I've said so many times on this show over the years that, you know, when Jesus would walk into a village, just his presence in the village and nothing more would elevate the consciousness of everyone in the village. You can elevate the consciousness of the people in your home by being a being of love and a being who refuses to allow this kind of behavior, because you know it's darkness coming at light, and light will always end darkness, but darkness never ends light.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, my dear. God bless you. In Kansas City, what's the temperature there?
Oh, about 12.
About 12?
Maybe, if I'm lucky.
Right. Yeah.
I try not to go out there today, so.
Right. Well, thanks for calling. I love talking to you, and I hope that helps.
Oh, it does immensely.
Yeah.
You don't even know.
Thanks.
So thank you so much.
Thank you, dear. God bless you. Namaste.
And let's see if we can get to a few other people. Some really good calls today.
Good.
Interesting questions. And let's go to Jeanette on line 8, and she's calling from New Jersey.
Hi, Dr. Dyer. I'm so excited to hear your voice today. And it's snowing here in Montclair, New Jersey. We're stuck in the house. The kids are outside enjoying the snow. So I'm so excited we connected this today.
I am too. It's great to hear from you in New Jersey. Listen, I'm going to close all the lanes down to all the bridges in your state. What do you think?
No. Oh, boy, that would be that.
That poor guy is he's really dealing with it now, isn't he?
Oh, he sure is. They're all coming out now.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But my question is, I just closed my toy store in October, and I've always read all of your books, have seen all your PBS specials, and have been trying to practice more and more what you talk about. And lately, I wanted to ask, how do you know when, like, you're actually connected to Source? Sometimes I know it's a wonderful, warm feeling, but I wanted to hear your description of it when you do sit and meditate and actually connect.
Well, the truth is you're always connected. What you have to ask yourself is, what direction am I going? I mean, who you are, who all of us are, our source energy, we have it within us. But the problem is that we walk away from it, you know. But it's like you can't walk away from what you are. And what you are, it has a spark of God in you. And the best way to know that when it isn't ego, because ego is the part, you know, it's like these two forces. The Kabbalah teaches us that there are two forces. There's the force of light, and there's a force of dark. And it's all the same force. I mean, but basically, it's like, what direction is it going? when it is moving towards, hatred and bitterness and anger and judgment and resentment and fear and anxiety and stress and pain and so on, when you are moving in that direction, it's still, I believe this and have written about this myself, that it's still love, but it's moving away from your source. Here's how I look at it. And then there's the other direction when you're moving toward it. So it's like just picture the hands of a clock, okay? Okay. And at the top is there's two hands on the clock, okay? There's the minute hand and the hour hand. And you're born when both of them are right at the 12, right? So you can get a little metaphor of this in your mind. So now the not the hour hand, but the minute hand starts moving in the direction of towards, away from its source. The hour hand stays there. That's your source. And you are now moving. So you go past the 1 and you go past the 2 and you're moving away from your source. You see, this is, so this whole side all the way down to the 6 is each minute that goes by, or each hour, however you want to call it, that goes by, as you hit the 2 and as you hit the 3, 4, 5, this is all movement away from where you originated. You originated from a source of love, of perfect love, a source of what we call oneness, which means there's no opposites. There's the opposite of joy. When you're in the ego state is sadness. But when you're in divine love, there's no opposite of joy. Everything is just joy. But you're not there because you're moving away until you get to the 6. And now you're at the 6. And this is when you're furthest away from your source. This is when you're at the lowest point in your life. This is when you feel that you've fallen as far as you can go. The anger, the hurt, the resentment, the pain is so deep there. And now you have a choice. You can either stay, you've moved away, taken on all this ego, believe that who you are is all the stuff that you own and all of the people that you're mad at and all the judgments that you have towards others. But now you're at 6. Now you can either stay there because the hand doesn't go backwards. It won't go back to the 5, 4. It doesn't work that way. You have to now start coming the other way. Now you're going to the 7 and the 8, and now you're coming home. And it's when you're on this side, when you're coming home, back to where you originated from, you're heading back towards perfect love. And divine love is the kind of love that was your origination point. And this is when you know that you're connected. It's not whether you're there perfect, because as long as you're in a human body, there's going to be some separation. There's going to be opposites. And as long as you're on this planet, there's going to be east and west, and north and south, and up and down, and male and female, and good and bad. All of these dichotomies that we all experience and these paradoxes. But ultimately, when you get back to the 12, when you rejoin it, what happens is you get rid of, you fuse these dichotomies. And you're in a place where there's only love. There's no opposite. And as you start to look out at the world and see people behaving in certain ways, you still only have love, because that's all that you are as you're connecting yourself back. And you'll find yourself slipping when you're at the 8 and when you're at the 9, at the 10. But the closer you get to reuniting yourself with your source of being, the more that you will experience just feelings of bliss and love and kindness and joy. And when you're not, it's probably because you've got thoughts of judgment and criticism and condemnation towards some of God's children or some of the creations that we have or that you run into. And when you get rid of the judgment and the condemnation and the criticism, you're at the 7 and you're coming home. So the question isn't whether or not, you're with your source. The question is, what direction are you moving? Are you moving away from what you originated from? Because when you originated, I just saw something that's gone viral on the internet that my kid sent me. I'm thinking about posting it. I did post it on my Facebook page. It's of a little baby. And this baby is laughing at a dog that somebody's throwing popcorn at this little dog. And the baby's maybe 7 or 8 months old, if that. And it's just laughing. It's just it can't stop laughing. It's like it's at such bliss that it's this laughter. And it's like, William Wordsworth, a very famous English poet, said that our birth is but a sleep and a forgetting. Heaven lies about us in our infancy. And it's almost like you've got to remember that knowing that you're with Source is remembering who you are, remembering where you came from, knowing that you don't, when you came into this world, you had no judgment. You just, you just were here, and you were just accepting, and your mom put her breast in your mouth, and you were just content and happy and gurgling and all of that. And then you took on this ego, and then you starting to believe, and then comparing yourself and trying to be better than other people, trying to accumulate more stuff than other people. All of this is movement away. And now you start coming home, and you become more and more like God, which is really just where you become a being of sharing, because that's what God is. You know, God just offers us everything in the universe, whatever it is, the source that we came from. It's just a source of abundance, and it doesn't ask for anything in return. It just allows anything to be. And the more and more you find yourself doing those things, that's when you know you're reconnecting, or at least you're heading back to the source. And when you ultimately get back to the 12, this is when you just shed your body, and we call it death, but this is the place that we call immortality. That's what Emily Dickinson called it. She says, because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. This is when you start to realize that who you are is this, you're not a human being having a spiritual experience. It's the other way around. You're this infinite spiritual being with a soul who's just having a little temporary human experience. And the closer and closer you get back to the 12, the more you know you're with Source. Long answer, but it's. I hope that made sense.
No, it did. Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. And God bless you, dear. Thanks for calling today.
And we have just a minute, but I think time for one quick one.
Okay.
Slide one
I didn't
more
realize
person
it was
in.
that close. Okay.
Yeah, just 3 minutes. So let's
3
grab
minutes is
Kent real quick from Toronto. He's on line 2 and has been very patient holding. And Kent, we have just a few minutes, but you're on with Dr. Dyer.
Oh, hi. Thank you.
Hey, Kent.
Hi, how are you? I'm actually not in Toronto. I was in to come and see you in Maui in Divine Love last weekend, which I really enjoyed.
Oh, I'm so glad. What did you think?
It was great. And then, so I'm just staying with some friends in Honolulu. So I'm still enjoying your weather for now, and then I'm going to go back to minus 25 soon. But no, I loved it because with, say, Scarlett and Ilibagiza, they were talking about forgiveness, which kind of reminded me to forgive myself and forgive others. And then with Anita and Mary, they were talking more about reminding me who I really am, which is divine love. So, but anyway, it was just great. It was just a great atmosphere. I really enjoyed.
Do you have still the hangover effect of it? Is it? Are you still feeling it? Because it's been over a week for me, and I've just been walking around awash and like I'm in a bowl of soup, that is called love. I mean, everything I look at just. It really impacted me that way.
Yeah, no, it's just very, like a joyful state or a blissful state, or just constantly reminding me who I really am. So not like I just loved the prior caller when you were talking about when I find myself in anger or frustration, to remind myself of compassion and kindness and joyfulness, and it takes me to another place. So, and I was when you said about that chapter 16, I reread Mary's chapter 16, and it's such a great reminder of who we really are. It makes me tingle when I read it, right?
It's called Out of the Blue, and Hay House, I talked to Reed, and who's a president of Hay House, and he's agreed that we're going to publish it. We're going to help her get the first parts of it edited, but it's very, very powerful. It's very seldom that I ever... Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I'm looking forward to that. So I came to see you in San Diego, the taping of I Can See Clearly Now, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. I'll probably see myself in the audience next week.
You will, definitely, yeah.
That was very good, too. So,
well, good.
And
that
I just
was
wanted
after...
to thank you. I had a great weekend. It was very enjoyable, and it was a great feeling. So I just wanted to thank you thank you for putting that on.
I'm so happy that you were there.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I'm so glad to hear from someone who was actually there, and to see if it had the leftover effect that it's had on me. I'm just seeing love everywhere, even in my sore neck. I'm seeing love. What about that?
I think I got a sore neck too, so I'll have to look for the love in that too. But that's great.
Thanks
I
for
just
calling.
wanted to quickly call and thank you very much for that weekend.
Well, I thank you, and I appreciate it. God bless you, my friend.
Very good. Some great callers, and we will connect next week.
I hope so.
And congratulations, you're one video closer to who you're meant to be. Believe. For some more incredible Wayne Dyer motivation, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
Yeah, I have to remind myself to calm down as well, because I have a very busy, a busy schedule or a busy life. I have, 8 children and lots of people that I take care of, and